Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. This is Starrapter, joined by the full crew this week. We have Milton and we have Ben to discuss the 6th episode of the Book of Boba Fett, as well as some publishing news for this week's episode. How's it going, Milton?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back. I appreciate all the support and love that you guys gave me since I was off last week. But yeah, I'm glad to be back. Hyped for this episode. The last two episodes have been fire, but obviously this most recent one, I have a lot of good things about it. I don't really have any negative. I do want to address some of the criticism I've heard of where this show is going. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about this episode, so let's get into it.
Heck yeah. And well, Ben, for those of you that are watching, might look a little bit different on this week's episode. We had to kind of pull him in from mobile. So we are getting in all aspects of streaming tonight. How's it going, man?
Hey, as the legendary Bane said, we have to go mobile sometimes, and we're doing that tonight. But yeah, I'm doing good. Just getting ready for a bunch of relatives coming in from out of town in about 2 hours. So literally, as soon as I get done with this podcast, that's what we'll be entertaining a bunch of people. So that should be a lot of fun. And yeah, it was a really fun weekend. Star Wars, one of it's always great, like getting into it, into the Mandalorian every week, every Tuesday nights, like Mandalorian. I mean, Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett Eve every Tuesday night. So yeah, so that was fun. Like last week, always having my buddy over, bringing some good food and watching the Book of Boba at 3 a.m. And yeah, you guys just got to hear my Freudian slip, calling it the Mandalorian.
I know. I've been catching myself doing that, even discussing it with coworkers and whatnot. Half the time I am actually being for real. I'm like, how'd you like that Mandalorian episode? So that's been fun little exchanges we've been having. I'll kick things off this week because I almost forgot. Like, I don't know if I have anything to talk about this week for our week in Star Wars, but I actually have two cool, exciting things to kind of show off. Here we go again. That video exclusive content for those of you watching us live in After Effect. I've gotten new miniatures finally, and I haven't
Nice.
finished the ones that I have had actually still. But here we go. Let me get the camera up here. I have first off Yoda. There we go. That's from the Star Wars Legion. So I got that one. And I got a box of the Wookiees. There we go.
Nice.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, so they will keep me busy for quite some time now. There we go.
So I know for my week in Star Wars, I'm going to go back to an old one because I wasn't here last week. And like I said, I know Ben said something in the chat about the Naboo Starfighter. And like I said, I had to just pull this out again because, I have one, if you guys can see it.
Oh, cool.
Like I said, it's just nice that this is back in Star Wars. So I have my own little, this is when I was like 10 or 11. It's all busted up, but hell, the Mando had his busted up too, and he made it something great. But this is my week in Star Wars. I had to pull this out again. So there we go.
Perfect
Awesome
timing.
stuff there. Yeah, very cool, very cool. Yeah, I mean, we were thinking about that last night about like, hey, what's going on with Milton, because he must be losing his mind with the Naboo Starfighter showing up.
No, it was nice. It was nice to see that ship. I mean, obviously, I didn't know that was going to happen. But yeah, it's cool how they converted that ship into something that's pretty badass of a ship. I mean, honestly, like I think every time I look at it, I want one. I want to have that exact ship, and I actually might have to get that actual figure. I mean, and I'm not really one to collect the figures anymore, but I might have to get that. It looks really cool.
Yeah, I have a Hasbro, like a 3 3/4 inch version. You could put like the Ricolay pilot or Anakin in there, and I remember like the tail being bent up from me like shoving it in like the toy crates so many times. It was just like always off to the left or something like that.
Right.
The long ass skinny little thing. What about you, Ben? What's been going on with you?
Nothing too much. Like I said, my buddy came over. Just normally that's our like tradition now with all these live action Star Wars shows, and that's one of the best parts about Star Wars. Really, is just that's basically my week in Star Wars. Really, just thinking about how great Star Wars is as a community. Like, even though sometimes we can get into some um, interesting discussions online, I guess I would say, if you look at Twitter, it gets very interesting. But even with that, like, we're all Star Wars fans, so it's great, like, seeing the discussion. Like, Star Wars is going in such a positive direction, and I'm really liking that. And yeah, it's a great way they're doing things, and the way Star Wars is like bridging gaps between, say, the original trilogy and then the sequel trilogy. Like, we've had critiques of the sequel trilogy. Like, I'm definitely one of those people that critique it, but overall, it's great to see, like, the way Star Wars is connecting and making the sequels a little bit more better, just like the prequels, or just like Clone Wars did for the prequel series. So I'm definitely liking the overall discussion of Star Wars at the moment versus like how it was even, say, 2 or 3 years ago, when it was just like constant battles or whatever. Like, sure, you'll get those random one-off trolls or people here and there, like, just posting like hot button, posts just to get a reaction. But overall, it seems like Star Wars is heading in a good direction with the fandom.
Oh yeah, I like all the positiveness coming out of everything right now, with just, hey, everybody's just loving what's happening. It's always a fun week when we don't have to see too much discourse going on.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good point. I mean, yeah, and like I said, I think with these particular episodes that's come out the last 2 weeks, I think the fandom's been pretty satisfied. Again, you have those people who will still be negative, and it is what it is. You can't please everybody, but yeah, it's nice to see that there's been a collective of positivity for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, without further ado, let's just jump in, because I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this episode with you guys. I know we've exchanged a few messages in our group chat, just going like, yeah, this is great and everything. But I've been really looking forward to Fridays, going to talk about more in depth with these episodes. Before we get started, though, if you guys are watching live, such as Star Wars Theology is, welcome to the chat, man. You can always get involved with that guy or that girl in the live action in the Star Wars podcast. Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted because there was some technical issues going on as we were recording, but I think we're good now. Although there is a little bit of a weird noise going on in the background. I don't know if anybody can hear that.
I can't hear it anymore. Well, it just went off. No, we're good now. We're good. See, this is live, people. You never know what's going to happen.
Yes. So if you are watching the video version, sorry about the quality of the voice, because I realized that the voice is not matching with our mouths completely, at least with me. So just be aware of that, because I am aware of that. It's not that I'm unaware of that. So going forward, yes, we're getting off to a great start. We have this going live every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So if you want to join us, you can join in the discussion in the chat. We love to have you guys in the lively chat room here, going back and forth. And you can also listen to us live or listen to us on podcasts after the fact. Every Monday, we put this available to download on everything from Google Podcasts to Spotify to Apple Podcasts and everything else beyond. And we also have t-shirts at our Teespring store, so make sure you go ahead and check out the merch. So let's get this thing started. So we have From the Desert Comes a Stranger, episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett. And yes, this has everything to do with Luke Skywalker, Grogu, which I would have never expected. We're going into full spoilers because I really can't talk too much about this episode without bringing that up. So sorry about that. But it's already been all over the internet at this point, so you've probably seen it. Yes, we have Mando going to this planet. We're not sure what the planet is. He finds not only Luke building a temple, but Ahsoka. There's that first, communication between them that we've ever seen that kind of blew my mind about, like, holy crap, like, I would have never expected that. And then we get down to Tatooine, and that is where we see Cobb Vanth returning. Yes, Cobb Vanth. I've been waiting for this guy to show up. He feels so likely to show up in a show about Boba Fett. He used to have the armor. And we see Cad Bane enter the scene, and we see the Pikes actually causing a ruckus and actually making themselves known to be a threat for the first time ever in this entire 7-episode series. And it ends with a huge choice. It ends with a huge choice of saying Grogu can move on with a lightsaber, being a Jedi under the tutelage of of Luke, or you can go along with Mando with his mithril Beskar armor shirt. So that's everything in a nutshell. We're gonna break that down in very much, very, very detail. So getting into our impressions right off the bat, let's just start off with Ben. What'd you think of this episode in general, man?
Excellent. I thought it was the best episode of the series, one of the best episodes so far of these live action Mandoverse shows. It's definitely for me a perfect episode, pretty much for the most part. I really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. After how exciting last week was, I got really nervous when it opened with Cobb Vanth in the desert. I was like, oh my goodness, is this episode going to be a Cobb Vanth episode?
Yeah.
I was really nervous actually, because I was like, holy smokes, if they give us a Cobb Vanth episode before the finale, people are going to go wild. and luckily they didn't. But overall, the episode I thought was really well paced. The the quote unquote, feel of Star Wars was there. Like, it definitely felt like Star Wars, obviously because Dave was directing, but it felt like Star Wars. The way he paced the scenes with Luke, the way he paced Ahsoka, everybody. He obviously gets Din and Grogu perfectly. Like, he hit them perfectly. And then, of course, finally adding stakes to the series, because we really never have the whole threat of the Pikes. Like, why should we be scared of this group? Who in the group are we scared of? We don't know anybody from it, so who cares? But now that we find out Cad Bane is with them, and he comes in and basically threatens this. He obviously threatens Cobb Vanth. He shoots him in the arm or shoulder area and then kills the deputy. But he obviously is basically setting the tone, because even Cobb knew this guy probably meant business. So he had everybody go inside. So now the Pikes are a threat because they have Cad Bane. And I just think it's really a good way to finally set up the finale. And then, of course, the major choice between with Grogu is going to be an impactful one, whether it be in this finale or in Mando season 3 or 4, and future Star Wars Disney Plus series in general.
Yeah, so a lot of great points there, Ben. Especially going into how the future could look for the series, about how Cobb Vanth. I love the introduction to Cobb Vanth. I thought that was so cool to just open up with that actor and be like, yes, we're back. And this is so Western, such a Western feeling, seeing him just gunning down the Pikes, giving him that ultimatum and all that sort of thing. What about you? What about you, Milton? What were your thoughts on this episode right off the bat? Is Milton here?
I can't hear Milton.
I'm sorry. I had myself muted. My fault.
Okay, there we go, Milton.
So I love this episode so much. Obviously you guys know I'm a big Luke fan. I am so impressed with the technology. I was actually telling this to my dad yesterday, and I was like, Dad, you have to watch this. And he said he'll get into it eventually. And I said, listen, Luke shows up and he looks so good. I was very impressed, and I was worried that they would have him talk but cut away from him. So you notice early on they were doing that when Luke was speaking. I'm thinking, maybe it's not looking good. Maybe the voice is off. But then they did some close-ups on him, and I'm thinking why don't we get a Luke series? If he looks this good, give me a Luke Skywalker miniseries.
Well, Milton,
without question.
Yeah, just to interject real quick and let you get back to your point. So you bring that up. The best shot, I think, of the episode, in my opinion, was when Grogu is lifting up the frog, and when it cuts to Luke, it cuts straight onto his face, right on his face, and he's looking like, are you serious? You're doing this? He looked annoyed. They hit the annoyed emotional look so perfectly. That's what I was thinking too, was we can do a Luke series. We 100% can do a Luke and Grogu series, or a Luke just doing his thing series. I think it could 100% happen after this.
Yeah, honestly, if you want to, and I know we're going to focus on this episode, but if you want to give me a Luke series that took place after Return of the Jedi, literally a year or two later, that's fine with me, because it's man, the tech has caught up. And since I know they've probably developed this technology over the last couple years, but my God, from the first time we saw him at the end of Mando season 2 to now, significant improvement. Sounded just like him. Looks like Mark Hamill at that age. I'm just like, wow. I'm very, very impressed. Love the Luke and Grogu interaction. Love seeing Ahsoka. I love the Ahsoka interaction with Luke. I think obviously, and everyone knows, Cad Bane's my favorite bounty hunter of all time. Like the way he looked was amazing. The way he sounded was amazing. Literally on my way home from work, I was talking to my brother. He's like, Milton, did you watch it yet? I'm like, no. And he's like, you're going to lose your mother effing mind when you do, because some people show up that you really like, and just where this story is going, I'm excited. Now I've heard some criticisms about, oh, this is no longer Book of Boba Fett. It ain't about him. Blah blah
We're gonna
blah.
talk all about
And
that.
it's
We have a
yeah,
whole
we'll get to
segment
that.
we'll
But it's
talk
like
about that.
it's called the Book of Boba Fett for a reason. This is a chapter within the Mandalorian universe. This is a Mando. This is a Mandoverse show. So of course all the characters are going to play a part in all the shows that's produced within the Mandoverse. So to me, I'm totally fine with how this is played out. You know, like you have the Arrowverse, you have Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have Snyderverse or DC Universe, whatever you want to call it now.
Yep.
There's always intermixing stories, and characters sometimes take the lead in other people's shows or stories. So I love this episode. To me, one of the best episodes I've ever seen. And again, we'll get into it further, but I really can't say nothing bad about this.
There you go. Well, credit where credit is due, and that is for Dave Filoni, written and directed by him. Awesome stuff there.
Well,
Whenever he shows up.
let me jump in here real quick. I'll give credit to someone else, and you guys might be shocked for me to say this. I'll give it to Kathleen.
Yep.
She had to have signed off on this. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like part of me gets upset when I see stuff like this. It's like, oh my God, this is the stuff we want, but then you give us The Last Jedi. But then I'm thinking, you know what, Kathleen, you're making up for it. You're giving us Luke Skywalker.
Well, here's the thing too, Milton, not to like get super sidetracked on a Kathleen discussion. We could have a 2-hour conversation about that. But taking her off the movie set issues, I guess you would say, to use kind of a sports term, off the field type issues, like the mismanagement, things like that, okay, whatever. But if you really think about it overall, like sure, we're not like the biggest fans of the sequels, but I think really the only misstep under the Disney era so far has been The Last Jedi. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people that like it, which is totally fine, and the film is subjective and everything and blah, blah, blah. But if you think about it, for the most part, they have like a pretty good winning percentage. Like they've hit on almost everything's been pretty good to solid at least, and they're trending in a good direction. And like with Kathleen, she had to have, greenlit The Mandalorian, greenlit Mando Season 2, greenlit Book of Boba, and greenlit all these other projects like the Ahsoka project, the Kenobi project. Like, so there's good projects coming down the pipeline.
Right.
And I think, I can give them credit because they're listening to fans, because you can tell, sure, a lot of people weren't the biggest fans of Rise of Skywalker, but you can tell they tried to course correct with that movie to basically, oh crap, we made a lot of people upset. Let's try to do what we can with Rise of Skywalker and make people happy.
Right.
And I think they're really trying, and I think they're trending in a good direction with everything.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. So as far as like my initial impressions of this episode were, wow. Mando, I thought that could have been just like a one and done, like a one shot in a comic miniseries. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna throw this one character, the one episode, and continue with like the Boba Fett. And then when I seen Cobb Vanth show up, I was like, oh, here's more connective tissue. Then it was like Grogu and Luke, like, come on here. Like, I thought for sure that they would hold Grogu until like season 4 of The Mandalorian. I thought they were gonna really make us like really want him. But then it makes sense, like he's like kind of like the cash cow. Like you can't go too long without him, because then people will start dropping off. You know what I mean? Because they're coming here to watch Grogu. But just like the deep connective stuff to the Clone Wars, if you are a longtime Clone Wars fan, you're gonna love this episode for all the references of Ahsoka and oh, I'm a friend of the family, and he's like your father or whatever. He's whatever the line was, like all that stuff really hit. Just seeing the future of how it could be like, Heir of the Empire tie-in, where it's like he's building his Jedi Academy. That is just mind blowing there. But getting into the stuff with like, hey, the Pikes are actually a threat. Like this episode did more for the plot of the Book of Boba Fett, as well as actually pushing everything else forward in this at the same time and giving us an actual threat that we haven't had this entire season. Is it a little bit late? Probably. And that leads me to believe we're going to get multiple seasons of like a Boba
Mhm.
Fett spin-off show at this point. But they're certainly setting us up for a huge last episode. So as far as the penultimate episode goes, I wouldn't say it's by any means perfect, but it's definitely been a bright spot in this season, which has felt like it lacked a clearly defined purpose as far as like what's going on with the threats. So for that, I really enjoyed this episode. So what did you guys think? We'll jump into the episode proper and go like kind of scene by scene about the Cobb Vanth scene. I'll say my
Right.
initial impressions of that with Cobb Vanth. It's great, especially as we know the end game with what happened with him. This entire purpose is to show him that the Pikes are everywhere now in Tatooine. They're not just on Maz Espa. They're literally everywhere. They're even in the most remote places like Mos Pelgo at this point, which we've seen how much of a pain in the ass it was to find in Mando season 2 already. It was like a lost town, and if they're already in a lost town, it's like damn. But this episode did a great job of showing us how good of a gunslinger Cobb Vanth is, and then when we see him get his ass kicked by Cad Bane, it's like, holy crap! Like that guy that just took out 3 dudes in a blink of an eye just got two-shotted by like this other guy that came out of nowhere. So that was a scene that was a really great idea to put in there in the beginning because it does show us the power of Cad Bane, but it also reunites us with a character that I really did enjoy as Cobb Vanth. So what'd you guys think?
I thought it was a good scene. I mean, you're right. I think it set the tone to what the episode was going to be. It established the Pikes, and like Ben said, they put stakes on this episode. They put stakes in the show. I mean, yeah, we've seen people die, but not really main characters that were really threatened. Um, Obviously, the way they introduced Cad Bane is a classic way to introduce him. Just have him walking through the desert like a nameless stranger, and they kind of played it that way. I mean, that's what the episode's called, pretty much. A desert, a strange, was it a strange stranger in the desert or something like that? Yeah. So like you can definitely tell Filoni and Favreau looked at those old Western films and took inspiration from those. Because again, you see a lot of the scenes in those movies where the Western stranger was walking through from the distance, and you're like, oh, well, who's that? I'm very curious of why this person's here. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it was nice that he didn't reveal his name because he didn't say his name. He
No.
just showed his face. And from my perspective, I think Cobb Vanth knew who that was. I think he knew who was Cad Bane because you can tell, like, if you go back and watch it, he lifts his head up and he says, "You need to watch what business you're in or something."
Yeah.
And his face just changed. He's like, "Oh,
Oh.
it seemed like he recognized them."
Well, because
Or he knew
Cad said you should have kept your armor.
the armor on, yeah. And it's like, oh, like again, I love that scene. I just love the way he looked. Cad Bane looked so good, and he sounded so good, even though he was lighter blue toned. I think that's from the sun reflection. That's the lighting on purpose, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Showing him being light skinned. Because I saw someone on Twitter or Instagram, like he color corrected it, not to criticize it, but to say this is what it looks like in the animated show. But he still looked great in live action, and I wish, not gonna lie, if I could be one character to play in Star Wars, I want to be Cad Bane. Put some makeup on me, I'll be a bounty hunter because he's such badass. He's more badass than Boba Fett. I'll be honest with you. Like Boba will get wrecked by Cad Bane, in my opinion.
Was that a CGI or was that like a mixing between practical?
And that's
what was that?
I thought the same thing. My brother and I think it's both. We think it's practical and CGI. Obviously with the nose, kind of like when they did Voldemort and Harry Potter, like
Okay.
Ray Fiennes, they showed his real nose in like behind the scenes, but they CGI'd it to look like a snake. I think that was practical makeup with CGI mixed in as well.
Oh.
I mean, obviously with the eyes, I think you have to CGI the eyes because they look so. But he was like it looked so good. Like I don't even care. It just looked amazing for live action for sure.
I mean, we're talking. Let's just talk about the scene already, because why talk about it twice essentially? So with the whole Cad Bane appearance, I think they did a wonderful job of and I'll call out Aaron Daly in the chat. She's saying Cad Bane's entrance felt like a Clint Eastwood film. Yeah, it certainly did. Like the build up to seeing this guy walking out of nowhere, and the build up to like him just looking down, and like for the longest time you just hear how intimidating it is, just seeing his teeth were just like so grotesque and just wicked, like. And they got Corey Burton to do the voice. Thank goodness they got the original voice actor to actually
Loved
do
it.
the voice. And man, oh man, it just was something incredible, because you see like the build up, and you keep doing those like old western cuts, right? Where it's like looking at the person's eyes, look at the person's hands by the blasters. It was so old west, and the deputy goes. But like, think about this, like how long has Cad Bane actually been like staking out this place? Because he had the armor. So that he knew about this like whole operation for literally a long time, months maybe, because he
Right.
hasn't had that armor in a while. So
Well, he probably like scoped it out in the sense of communicating with people around town, or just around Tatooine in general. Because I mean, didn't Cobb have the armor for like 5 years or something like that?
yeah,
So he had to have like spoke. I mean, Cad's gonna do his reconnaissance research. So to me, whether he did his research or he scoped it out, we never know. But it was not surprising that he would know that information. I mean, hell,
and
this guy broke into the Jedi Temple,
yeah,
stole holocrons, and got away.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy.
This guy means business, and the fact that it's Boba Fett, he knows Boba Fett because he trained Boba Fett. I mean, it might not be. I guess it's kind of canon, right, Ben? Because there's like a scene that was cut from Clone Wars where there was like a
Right.
duel and everything. So it's like I wonder what his feelings are on Cobb Vanth, because like, oh, this is the pretender that took my protege's armor, or something like that for 5 years, and I'm gonna whoop this guy's butt because he's nothing like Boba Fett.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking as well. I was like, man, Cad Bane obviously knows who Cobb Vanth is, just because he had the armor. It's been multiple years. Presumably, Cad's been working with the Pikes probably for, I would say, a while. I'm sure it wasn't just the day before this episode. So, he's been presumably working with them. And then you have him, just his whole interaction with Cobb Vanth, I thought was done so well. Like you said, all the shots were done really well. I really do like that they made him seem like a intimidating. They gave him a worthy introduction to his character for how he was. They gave him a worthy introduction, and then on top of that, I always have to applaud like Dave and John, and then even Robert Rodriguez for this series, for just the Mandoverse in general. When they've introduced these characters that we all know, we as in hardcore Star Wars fans, they've introduced them in a way as general audience. If you look at it from a general audience perspective, all they need to know is this cowboy hat bounty hunter alien guy is a bad guy. And that's exactly what they got. And they did such a good job at it because, like I always joke around, my litmus test is always my grandma, who's a Star Wars fan. She called me Wednesday afternoon and was like, whoa, that was a really good episode. I can't leave all the stuff that happened. She said that the craziest part of that episode, though, was that alien cowboy hat bounty hunter. She said and kid you not, she said he reminded me of Clint Eastwood in an old Western, but like he's an alien or something in Star Wars. And I said, yeah, that was the intention pretty much. So, yeah, like they did a good job of introducing Cad in a way, making him accessible for the general audience, but also living up to the legend of the way they drew him out in the Clone Wars and Rebels and everything, making him seem like a, just the way they introduced him, the way he talked, the way he shot, like everything was introduced perfectly. I mean, hey, the only thing we didn't get was having Toto coming along with him, but don't get me wrong, that would be great to see a Toto appearance.
I'm happy he wasn't there, because the last time he showed up in Bad Batch, like I'm pretty sure we all had criticism about this stupid droid.
Yeah.
like why is he doing this? Why is it Cad Bane shut him down? He's freeing the prisoner, like all this stuff. But
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool because after he kills the deputy, and I think it's safe to say that he's not dead, right? As far as Cobb Vanth is
Right.
concerned, you're saying he got shot.
Yeah,
in the shoulder
he
with-
lived. He lived.
Okay.
He got shot in the shoulder.
He got shot like basically in the shoulder where your arm connects to your torso.
Right.
So he should be fine. My little prediction on that, I mean, we'll get into predictions later, but quick prediction on that is I just think that'll be the catalyst to Cad's going to go back, or I mean not Cad, Cobb is going to go back to Boba, be like, hey, this alien bounty hunter dude with cowboy hat shot me, and Boba's going to be like, oh man, Cad Bane's back or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it crazy for me to think that, I'm not gonna lie, I was rooting for him the whole time? Like, I wanted him to win that gunfight. I mean, Cad Bane.
Oh yeah,
I thought for sure I was gonna have.
I can't lie. I was hoping we were gonna get Cobb taken out in that scene, just because he has been, he's one of those kind of like side characters that we have an appreciation for. So it would have been a valuable death, kind of like Queel, from season 1 in Mando, or Quill, or however you say his name. Mm-hmm. It would have been kind of like that, I think, and that could have maybe sent a message to Boba, like, hey, I mean business, because this episode alone really has a lot of Godfather type feels to it, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, this is what needed to happen. There had to be some death or some very serious consequences, which we haven't gotten at all in this series. Like, it's good that they finally gave us something to worry about, and there's going to be a lot more to worry about in this next episode. But again, it's just, all right, here's the threat, and it doesn't get much more threatening than this alien that just shows up on your doorstep and just wipes everybody out. And the fact that everybody else is just in terror, like, no one's going to try to kill Cad Bane. Like, he just takes them out and just slowly walks away, like, just has so much confidence, like, no one's going to mess with me.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. Like Ben said, they established this character for a normal head who's watching Star Wars. They established this character as someone that don't want to be trifled with, and that's good writing. That's good storytelling. And again, you're feeding, like, Dave Filoni and these guys. They aren't really advertising to the nerds. They're advertising to the mass audience that aren't super Star Wars heavy. So when they introduce these characters, they got to pull them in. They got to want them to say, well, who was that? Maybe he's in another movie or another show. Like, I saw who plays Fennec Shanagan, with Ming Na Wen, or Ming Na Wen. Yeah, she was tweeting about, oh, have you guys seen Clone Wars yet? Have you watched the movies? Because there's some characters that show up you need to watch. So it's cool like that to see that they're doing it. They're doing it right when they bring these familiar characters that we know of into live action.
Yeah, so let's keep on the track of threats involved in the Book of Boba Fett. And let's look to example A, which is literally the Pikes bombing the sanctuary, where we have the Twi'lek that Boba Fett has as a vassal that's going to give him money and all that. That was, like, you talk about Godfather events there, Ben. That was definitely one of them. Very clear inspiration from that. Just these guys leaving this Katonomo, or whatever they call it, full of just whatever that explosive is. And just, holy crap, that will send a message. If Cobb Vanth wasn't enough to send a message, oh, they'll just take out one of his own Boba Fett's own ways of making money, essentially.
Right. Yeah. Well, go ahead, Ben.
Oh no, I was gonna say real quick. Jennifer Beal got taken out, potentially Max Rebo, and all those patrons, really. So it's definitely finally, like, the stakes are getting up there, which unfortunately the stakes shouldn't be up there in the 6th episode, but hey, I mean, we're getting them now. We finally feel like a sense of danger, and it's paying off, or starting to pay off.
Right. Well, yeah, that particular scene reminds me of I believe it's the Godfather scene where Michael's first wife gets blown up in the car, where, like, his driver puts a bomb, or like a suitcase bomb, in the car, and you see him speeding off, and when Michael notices him walking away, he looks at the car and yells. That's pretty much paralleled in this particular scene, where Jennifer Beals' character noticed, like, that canteen thing or whatever, looks and see them leave, and, like, pretty much she knew that they were screwed over. Again, that's great storytelling. I love that scene. It makes so much sense that we need to up the stakes. You're right, Ben. 6th episode in, we could have probably got this in episode 3. But I'll take it. Now, and right there, this confirms we're getting to season 2, because there's no way they're going to resolve all these storylines in next week, unless it's an hour-and-a-half episode.
Yeah, we have Tim Sheets in the chat, good subscriber of the channel, likes to talk a lot about in these live things and in different videos. He's saying lots to tie up in the last episode. Good news, Max Rebo wasn't in the place. And I was literally thinking about this as your guys talking, like, all the people in there. I was like, oh shoot, the blue elephant guy that plays the keyboard, he wasn't in there, was he?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't really worried about him. I mean, obviously, I know he's a beloved character. It's funny how people can latch onto these minor characters, which is a good thing. But yeah,
And look,
like,
Boba.
huh?
I said Boba's a minor character, and he got
Fact,
latched.
you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. So obviously, I think Max Rebo, he just plays a keyboard, or I guess it's alien Star Wars keyboard. So no one really should love him, I guess, that much.
Heh.
However, he does deserve some love. I'll give him credit.
Yeah,
Wait, no. Here's the thing, then. My new pitch to Kathleen: the Book of Max Rebo.
Okay, no, I ain't
Well,
watching that.
he's
Sorry.
already survived an explosion on a sail barge, so the guy's pretty much indestructible apparently.
Yeah, well, maybe he has the Force and his metachlorian count is crazy high. So
He just floats away.
facts. It's ridiculous.
Oh man, so yes, the stakes are definitely high with the Pikes. Being led, oh not being led, but Cad Bane working for the Pikes, so got a lot to look forward to. Dark Dirty Gonzo in the chat saying, "Will say for the season finale, if the Maz Pelgo citizens join the war against the Pikes, the Tuscans probably will join in as well."
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. And like I said, we never know what Boba's going to do, and that's where I think the last two episodes have been lacking. Excuse me, the lack of Boba Fett, obviously. I think what would have helped strengthen them even more these two episodes, because they're not bad, but what would have strengthened it if we've got more Boba Fett pretty much pulling more strings about how he's trying to get his people together. What is his overall plans going to be to counteract the Pikes taking over, Tatooine and running spice through that planet?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's switch gears. Let's go down to this forested planet that Mando lands on, and there we see a bunch of spider droids putting together the beginnings of the very first Jedi Academy under Luke Skywalker. So what did you think about this scene as you first seen what was happening with R2, Ben?
I first, of course, was super excited to see R2 because I was like, well, that means we're getting Luke this episode, so that's good. So that gave me relief. But R2 is such a great mainstay for Star Wars, just kind of like Yoda was or Chewbacca. Like the droids, they're definitely a mainstay. So it was great seeing R2 get introduced the way he did. And then also, Mando interacting with him, I thought was done in such a genius way. Having R2 get back to his playful form, how he was in the originals, and then in the prequel trilogy, and even in Clone Wars, like having R2 like in kind of his playful mode, like when he's meeting and talking with Mando, and he basically tells Mando, "Hey, sit on that bench," and then R2 shuts himself off, and Mando's like, "Hey, wait, you're just going to sleep when you're talking to me?" Like it's just classic like R2 humor, and that's the type of humor Star Wars fans like. They like that type of humor and not like the forced humor we've seen from other projects in Star Wars. So I really thought it was a good introduction to R2 like back into the universe, and just the fact he he did a lot. It felt like he was actually involved, which is nice because I mean R2 is a really good side character that we need, and having him actually have something to do in this episode was good. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm catching a theme here, Ben and Milton. We've gotten two droids so far in the Book of Boba Fett that have just switched themselves off casually and conveniently.
Listen, that's my only beef about this episode was when he did that. I was like, oh my god, this is a foreshadow to Force Awakens, him shutting himself off.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
To Last Jedi, shutting himself off or just showing some shit, going to sleep after that. It's like, what are you doing? But then it's like, no, he's just being R2. He's being R2. I think that's a point to this, because R2 is very stubborn. We know that.
Yeah. 100%. The thing is with R2, he, the way he did it in those movies, though, it was more out of like depression and sadness.
Yeah, right.
In this, it was more for comedic purposes. Like
he's being a jerk. He's being a jerk on purpose.
Yeah, it was being a jerk, but it was a funny jerk.
Yeah, and that's where, like, because my brother and I were laughing about it. I said, "Oh my God, they're just foreshadowing in this, whatever." But But overall, I mean, I love the planet. I love the Luke stuff. I love Mando interacting with Ahsoka because he was surprised to see her again. Ahsoka is just a character that just universally loved, I think, from everyone. And Luke can do no wrong, in my opinion, especially young Luke. Just how he was just walking with Grogu and like
Hmm.
force skipping him.
I love
Like, how
that.
powerful do you have to be to do something like that? Just like it's like breathing for him. Oh, just come on, force walk.
Yeah, yeah,
Force
yeah.
walk, or like they were doing the meditation with the frogs, which is a cute scene. It was cool to see that Luke was getting a little annoyed, but also saying, "Hey, Grogu's still very much a kid." What really took me back with all the Luke stuff was when he tried to awaken his mind, Grogu's mind,
Mm.
with the memory of Order 66.
Oh
How
man.
dope was that? And we got to see clone troopers again.
Now those are the first time we've seen clone troopers in live action, wasn't it? That they
I mean,
had to be
obviously
live
since the
action.
prequels. I mean,
No,
since the
no, no.
prequel films.
But here's the thing: the prequel films, they're all CGI'd.
Right,
Yeah,
right. True,
Like I'm
true.
pretty sure
You're
those
not
were
wrong. You're
actual
not wrong.
humans in suits in that scene.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, with them only having what was like maybe so 10 troopers in that scene, you can hire 10 extras to play those troopers. But it was cool to see that like these creators are paying homage to the prequel trilogy and tying it into obviously the
Here,
sequel trilogy down the
yeah,
road. So it's
yeah.
cool to see that memory and what Grogu got to experience during the Jedi Purge
I
because we know he
yeah.
was there.
I felt like for whatever reason, and I know knowing Jedi lore, this doesn't make any sense, but I thought we were gonna get like a scene of like him on his home planet with
Mhm.
other Yoda-like creatures, and then
Right, right.
then I was like pleasantly surprised because I completely forgot like the whole thing with the Jedi Temple and how he was there. In my
Yeah.
eyes, I was like, oh, maybe could have been what happened. They were filming Kenobi, and they were like, "Hey,
yep,
you guys have the Order 66 set up, right? Still?" They're like, "Oh, can we just like shoot for a couple hours, put Grogu there, and have a couple of your
Right.
clone troopers there?" And that's why I'm like even more on board because there was concept art of like a Obi-Wan Kenobi series scene with like Order 66 with Anakin or something like that
Mhm.
that leaked like a long time ago in that press release thing. So now I'm like,
yeah.
okay, I really strongly think we're gonna get even more Order 66, and maybe they'll actually show us who actually rescues Grogu in the Obi-Wan series,
Right.
because
Well, I
that's
mean,
the big
you
mystery
got to
right
see
now.
who rescued Caleb in the beginning of Bad Batch. So
Yeah,
and that was something that was started, what was told in a comic, and obviously in Rebels, and we got to see that in a different show. So it wouldn't surprise me if we got to see a reference to, well, someone picked up the little Yoda type character, in the Obi-Wan series during a flashback. Because even, and I see where you wanted to go with the Chris with the whole Yoda tie-in, because he talked about Yoda, but also he says like, you remind me of my old master.
mm-hmm,
He spoke in
mm-hmm.
riddles, and he's like, do you know anyone like you like that? And Grogu didn't speak, so it was cool to see that. Oh, maybe he's gonna unlock his mind to show us maybe where Yoda came from, maybe where Yoda's origins are from. It was just cool to think that, but I'm glad we didn't get it because it was nice to see what Grogu's perspective was during Order 66.
Yeah, yeah, and you see a couple Jedi there. I think one of them is Syndralic, who used to be like a
Yep.
really good like lightsaber duelist apparently in like the old legends and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, that was Syndralic. I think when it comes to that, I kind of got thinking the same route as you were, Chris. Like they for sure had the Order 66 stuff set up for the Kenobi show, and they were like, "Hey, we need to shoot a scene or two for the Mando flashback or Book of Boba flashbacks, I guess." And that's where that came from because there's no way they would have like set up the visuals for that scene and everything without having that, like like I think we're going to see connecting scenes into that potentially, whether it be in like the Ahsoka series or the other Mando season 3 or even Kenobi somehow connecting to it. um I mean, who knows, we might get a flashback and have like a random, maybe we'll see Syndralic in a Kenobi flashback when Anakin's going into the temple or something. Like maybe we're going to get something along those lines. And, I think they're going to really try to connect all of these Disney series through, kind of side hallway type things like, oh, that's happening over there or that's happening over there, that sort of thing.
Right. I mean, I could see them make. Really, Star Wars is a linear story. Everything that's with these shows are connecting within the films, and like the animated TV show. So again, it wouldn't surprise me if they throw a scene or two, which I would like. Like, don't give me a full, 3, 4, 5 episodes trying to connect it. Just give me a couple scenes, because we can make it work. You can make it work to where it's like, oh, you're referencing your Easter egg in that scene. Okay, that makes sense. You get a peep of Grogu and Obi-Wan series in the Jedi Temple. Okay, we know where he was at one point. So yeah, you don't have to give us. You don't have to overdo it. Just give us enough where we're like, oh, I like that Easter egg. That makes sense why that person would be there, or why that event would take place.
It's pretty cool because there is, like, I guess you could call it an Easter egg to Jedi Fallen Order, because in Jedi Fallen Order, you are Cal Kestis like 5 or 6 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith, and you're trying to hide your past as a Jedi because the Sith are out, the Sith Inquisitor, so you're trying not to even like hint that you're a Jedi. So in doing that, you suppress all your Force powers and you kind of forget how to like certain memories and certain abilities. So that kind of reminded me of that. It's like, okay, like Luke is like almost like Cal Kestis, how Cal Kestis, when you level up, I guess, you gain more abilities in the Force because you're like remembering your past trauma and you're letting it come through, sort of thing. So that's kind of where I connected. I was like, oh, that's kind of like Luke letting Grogu kind of look past that trauma and see through the murkiness of his mind and unlocking some things, and like maybe that's gonna also help him like increase his Force ability, which we see later in the episode. But I do want to go back to Luke and how we thought of his appearance, and I'll start by saying I was a little leery at first because I was like, just like Milton or Ben had said earlier, it's like, oh, why aren't they showing like him talk, or like why aren't they showing, they keep showing his head or far away shots. And I was like, oh, there's probably something wrong with his eyes. They don't want us to see his eyes, because I think that might have been one of the things in the prior one. But when he opens his eyes, I was like, holy crap, that's Mark Hamill. Like, what?
Yeah.
How did they get him back in a time machine? Like, it really felt great. And as Milton said, I think they could really get away if they had the funds to do it. They're gonna show more Luke and more Luke as we get through these series. I think he'll be in the Ahsoka series for sure.
It's Disney. They got the money. Okay, you can do a 2 to 3 season miniseries of Luke Skywalker. Okay, at this point, like, the technology's there, and it's only going to get better. Again, we said this last year about the Mando finale. We all said it. We're like, this is going to get so much better with the technology. And I think one of you guys referenced it in a group chat, maybe, about they hired that guy from YouTube that does like the deep fakes or something.
Yeah.
And like he's part of the team now with the tech. Like, come on, man. Like, if you can make, Luke Skywalker from 1983 to 90 bring him in 2022, like, come on, we deserve a Luke show. That's all I gotta say.
Well, that's the thing with Luke. Yeah, that's the thing with that Luke appearance, is the way Shamook did it. Like we mentioned before last year, he did that. He did his prior deepfakes on his own budget, on his own computer and stuff at home. And now he has Lucasfilm's budget, and he has their high-end computers and high-end tech and everything. And look how talented he is that he was able to do it. And he's like leading, like, his official title, he's like leading. It's basically like lead motion capture person, for like the CGI for the face and all that. So like he's like the lead of that creative process, and he's doing such a good job with it. Like, we could for sure, Luke, I mean, we've seen him do it with his own stuff with Harrison Ford on, sorry, Alden, but, we can for sure get a young Han Solo now, and potentially young Carrie Fisher, because all you have to do is get, they have to capture so many different variations of like their facial expressions and things like that. And he did such a good job. It was so impressive. Like, all throughout it, I was, like you both said, I was a little nervous at first when we started. I was like, oh man, how's this going to look? Because, we're not recasted. So how's this going to look? I was pretty nervous. And then when they see his face, I was like, holy smokes. And then, like I mentioned to start this show, the scene where Grogu's lifting the frog, it cuts to Luke's face, and he looked annoyed, and they nailed it. They nailed it so perfectly. And I just was stunned. And all throughout it, like, we try to look at these shows with a positive outlook, but throughout it, I was kind of thinking, okay, where can I critique this? You know what I mean? Where can we find the chink in the armor? And it was so good. He did such a good job at it, and it was so impressive. And it just made me think of all the different possibilities they could have. And
Pretty
again,
much.
all of this has to be, again, we started our show like giving Kathleen a shout out. I can give them another shout out here, because to humble yourselves and hire a YouTuber, that's big. Like I can give them all the props in the world for that. Like, and he's crushing it so far.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? There are so many other variables in this sequence. First off, time. There's way, way more time than we see Luke speaking, close-ups, everything. It was very much a stationary shot. When he comes up in the finale of Mandalorian 2, he's just in that interior design space, right? That's a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's in an exterior, a brightly lit, just
Yep.
daytime shot. It's like they can't hide any blemishes when you have direct sunlight on your face. It's not like you're hidden in shadows or something. Plus, there's a lot of movement. He's walking, he's talking, he's doing different gestures, and at one point he's even like using his lightsaber. And before, when they used lightsaber, he had to like wear a cloak. So the fact that they were able to progress the technology that fast in literally 1 year is pretty astounding, because it's like a night and day difference with all the enhancements.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like with all like, and that's what really threw me, because like, all the lighting shots that they did, and that's purposeful lighting. Like I'm sure they probably shot that on a sound stage or something. Maybe some natural light outside, but they have to generate the lighting that they want. And for them to create that Luke's face with that lighting and make it look so naturally like he's an actual human being there, it's like, man. And yeah, I love the lightsaber use. And that, it's nice to see that, because Luke was training still. He was trying to get better. I still think Ahsoka would wreck him, but he definitely like got better with a saber. You can tell. And speaking of Ahsoka, their interaction was amazing. Just for her to say that one line, "Oh, so much of your father in you," and it's like, damn it, like, like how cool is that?
Yeah.
Oh,
I never would have thought we'd have got like that type of scene ever. That Anakin's son would be cool with his close friend / apprentice.
Yeah, like there was this really good artist. I wish I could give them credit. That was floating around for years, where it's like Luke with Ahsoka with Leia on the Falcon or something like that. And I always think about that when I'm thinking about like that meeting, and now I can think about this. Like, we actually got that meeting. Now, I think there's a lot more history with that scene. I think we're gonna get like either in Mandalorian season 3, or it's definitely in Ahsoka. We'll get like some kind of flashback for when they actually meet. Like, how did Ahsoka know he was there, and all that sort of thing. Like, because then he's like, "Will I ever see you again?" or something as she goes away. So,
yeah, well, because they seem very comfortable with each other, and love how the line she said, "Oh, I'm a friend of the family."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, bro, you think about Padme, you think about Obi-Wan. It's like she wasn't just a Padawan; she was family. Like that. That's how Anakin treated her.
Oh yeah, I thought it was so great seeing Ahsoka like interacting, like you guys said, seeing her interacting with Luke. That's what we've been wanting. We've been wanting that conversation, that scene. Like, and we're for sure gonna get more of it, because here's another thing too with the whole Luke and Ahsoka stuff. They wouldn't be perfecting this technology with Luke to just do it as a one-off thing. Why would you sink in money to do it as a one-off thing, get people hyped, and then don't do it ever again? Like, we're going to be getting plenty more Luke, whether it be potentially in the finale, or even, in Mando season 3 and in Ahsoka and the Rangers show. Like, I think we're going to get a good dose of Luke and hopefully a show of his. But seeing him and Ahsoka interact was so great. It's what we've always wanted. Rosario Dawson, I love her as Ahsoka. Like, don't get me wrong, she just plays it so perfectly. And I like it that she's also really buying into the character more and more, because if any of you guys have Twitter or Instagram, like, she's always posting about Ahsoka. Like, the other day she went and reposted a picture of like Anakin and requoted, and all she wrote was "Sky Guy." Like, seeing stuff like that, it's like, that's great. Like it's great that she's buying into the character. Like, so we're gonna get plenty more with her and Luke interacting. Like you guys said, we're definitely gonna get either how they met, or maybe what I'm actually really hoping for is kind of an extended Anakin conversation between the two.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Yeah. I think the cool thing about Rosario Dawson, the actress, is she's one of the busiest working actresses in the entire industry. Like just today, I found out she does like voice capture or motion capture and voices for one of these characters in his new Dying Light video game that came out today. It's like, so she does that. She does like live action things. Like she's working all the time. So it's not like, oh, of course she's just saying this stuff because, Star Wars is her only project. Like she obviously is super busy with all these other projects, and yet she still has the time to kind of gloat over Star Wars the way she does.
Right.
I mean, she's
Well,
gonna be an awesome ambassador, of the Star
I'm about to
Wars.
say, and you can tell she's a fan of the property.
Yeah.
Like that's what I love about the actors that they bring on, even the creators. They're fans of the property. Now, are there times where you shouldn't bring on fans to do certain things that you like? Probably, because I mean, let's be real here. Should me or Ben run our NFL teams that we love? Probably not, because we'd be too emotional about it. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
but like when it comes to acting and being a creative genius like that, I think you can do a better job at separating that because there's a lot more people that's in that particular team, and obviously we see that we have 3 creators in Filoni, Favreau, and even Robert that are fans of the property and they really understand Star Wars, and they will probably disagree with each other and say, hey, that might not fit here, but maybe this does for this particular way we want to tell this story. So I love that with having Rosario Dawson, even having who voiced Ahsoka in the show back in the day. What's her name? What's her name?
Ashley Eckstein.
Ashley Eckstein, yeah, having her as the voice and how she promotes Ahsoka with her own clothing brand and always showing up for the events. It's nice to see that we have that positive environment from these 2 actresses who play Ahsoka very differently because they're different times in their lives. And I love that we've embraced this character and we still want to see her.
Yeah, we also have clarification on the artist that I could not remember for the life of me for the awesome Ahsoka and Luke picture, and that is Daniel De Almeida. And that is thanks to Dark Nerdy Gonzo in the chat who clarified that for us. So there you go. Look it up. It's awesome. Awesome.
Appreciate
artwork.
it. I'm curious to see what the chat's got to say about the way Luke looked. Because again, I've seen nothing but positive interactions on social media for the most part. I mean, I've seen some negative, but I don't really pay attention to those people because not worth my time.
Yeah,
but but like I'm curious what the chat thinks about how Luke looked because I was just blown away. I legit was so excited to see that. Wow, we're getting really good, and I feel like they're going to touch up Luke in the finale. I can see them fixing him a little bit in the finale of Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah, we had Star Wars Theology earlier on in the show. He was going on about how looks looked really, really good. And, a lot of people are talking about Cad Bane before, but, I haven't reached out to a couple of my close friends that were very much against Luke in the finale of Mando. They were like, they should have recasted him. Doesn't look right. So I made it a point to actually private message them and be like, what do you think now? And they were like, it looks great. I was like, that's a litmus test. If like these guys that absolutely didn't like it at all are saying it was pretty good, then I was like, oh, they've done their job. Because I went out on Twitter and I tweeted like, it's really quiet about Luke. I guess they nailed it or something to that degree. And like pretty much like that was it. I didn't see anything negative on Twitter at all.
Well, that was one of the best parts was, we saw a lot of people going hard in the paint on Luke in season 2 of Mando. Oh, well, he looks this way, recast, blah, blah, blah. And if they would, here's the thing though, to keep it real, if they would have stuck with the CGI from Mando season 2, you have to recast.
Without question.
But this is a totally different ball game. Like this technology is so good. Like it's crazy. Like I was one of those people. I'm definitely one of those people that are in like, hey, you can recast these younger actors. Like if it's for the story, it's for the story, whatever. But this totally changed my mind. Like I'm completely on board with the Luke series. You just have to be creative on how you're shooting it and stuff. Like I'm sure there are some angles, you could make it be looking, kind of weird or whatever. But overall, as long as you're smart about it, which John and Dave are and the creators are there, I think it'll work out just fine with whatever capacity they use Luke in. And, I think it's heading in a good direction. And, this presumably was shot like, months, like 6-8 months ago, potentially longer. So by the time we get around to seeing Luke again, the technology will be even better.
Yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, Tim Sheets was saying I was impressed with how they did Luke. Someone said this episode just changed history in regards to how we will do movies and shows going forward.
Facts.
Dark Nerdy
Without
Gonzo's
question.
chiming in. Luke looked perfect. Best of the digital patch jobs they did. Wish they could retouch both Tarkin in Rogue One and
I was
Leia
thinking
in
the same
9 with
thing.
this new tech.
I could see them doing that now because a lot of the stuff they put is out is digital. I could see them going back, touching up on Luke in the finale of Mandalorian, touching up Tarkin, which Tarkin actually didn't look bad for the most part, from my opinion. They can touch him up here or there. Leia was probably the weakest one of those particular three. But yeah, I can see them going back and say, let's just touch it up and re-release these films or whatever you want to do. Like, that's fine. I mean, you can do that. And that's why, like, there's so many possibilities now with these particular characters, I think, for Star Wars. Now, obviously, I don't want people saying, well, go do T'Challa from Black Panther, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't go that far. But with Star Wars, I think you can get away with using Harrison Ford's Han Solo, Mark Hamill's Luke, and what's her name? Carrie Fisher's Leia. To at least tell like another story with those three. Because we truly deserve another story with those trio of characters.
I think it's going to come in some version of this. They're going to see all the positive outflow of appreciation coming out of this episode and probably the next episode. And I think they're going to dive in, man. I think this really is becoming that heir to the Empire kind of take in canon. I really think this is going to be it.
Here's the thing, Chris. I was saying this to my cousin the other day. He actually just started the Heir to the Empire trilogy, and he read the entire first book in an afternoon. He just sat down and binge read it. And, you know, he's freaking out how good those books are right now. And like I told him, well, be prepared because basically the Mandoverse, they're just rough adapting the Heir to the Empire trilogy to this timeline. That's basically what this is turning out to be. Because I mean, we're getting young Luke who's powerful. We're getting, Boba Fett's in there. We're getting Thrawn. We're obviously there's adaptations like, you know, we have Ahsoka and Grogu and things like that and Mando, but those, you know, can be just subbed in as kind of the side characters. And, you know, they're basically just rough adapting the Heir to the Empire trilogy, which I'm totally fine with because the Heir to the Empire trilogy is top 3 or 4 Star Wars stories ever, all time. Like, that trilogy is great. So I think that's pretty much what's happening here. And the best thing is going to be, so, you know, we were so hyped about Luke. We're so hyped about Cad Bane, Ahsoka. I can't wait to see how they're going to do Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah. Good point.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's going to be something else. So let's get into the actual plot. We talked a lot about how it looked, how this made us feel. What'd you guys think about the big decision making that was in this episode, starting off with Ahsoka giving Mandalorian like the feedback of, hey, you know, you can go and you can give Grogu your gift, but that might change his fate. And would you really want him to do that? Like, I like the whole theme of choice in this episode. You know, everybody has a choice, and that could have obviously drastic implications and practical things that could happen later on. So that to me was pretty much heartbreaking because, like, you could see Mando looking away at Grogu from a distance, and he's so close. But, you know, he takes that decision and he goes his own way after traveling all that way.
I felt that part was, it was nice to see that they gave the choice, obviously. I kind of got some prequel dogmatic feels again in the sense of like, okay, like Luke talked about attachment and all that type of stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, like Luke was never known to be that type of Jedi or like turn away from attachment because he loved his dad. He loved Leia. He loved Han, you know, and it's like he wanted to have those bonds. Hell, he got married in the Legends. So to me, I felt that was maybe not Luke, but maybe they're just trying to say, well, Luke's a different Jedi in the sense of, well, no, I'm going to give you an option. Like, you don't have to be a Jedi. You can be a foundling Mandalorian or whatever. Just, you know, let you know if you choose the way of the Jedi is a very lonely path. Versus if you go be a Mando, you know, person, then it's different life for you. So I understood where they're going. I felt it was a little odd that they put some of that dogmatic narrative in it, but I guess that's pretty much a Jedi core value.
Yeah, and you got to realize too at this point that Luke has traveled around the galaxy for 5 years. After Return of the Jedi, he's been going around gathering Jedi artifacts. Getting tomes that speak of the ancient Jedi. So he's got a lot of that on the brain. But again, like we know, us looking back in hindsight, be like, yeah, that's the sort of stuff that made the Jedi fall in the first place. Like all these
Right.
dogmatic approaches to like this or that or nothing else. Those kind of ways of thinking are what were the downfall of the Jedi. But I do agree with you. It's like at least Luke is like now like you have to do this. This is your calling. Like he's at least giving Grogu the choice. But how about that, man? He lays out at the end of the episode. What a cliffhanger if we've ever had one in this series, right? Just giving Grogu this ultimate choice of Yoda's lightsaber, which we haven't seen in a long time. That's really cool. Or
Which
this
where did he
awesome-
find that? Where did he
that's
find
gonna
that?
be
cyber?
on. That's got to be on one of the journeys that Luke went on. Like Luke.
I
Has been
think,
going
and I
all
think,
over
I
the
think he must
galaxy.
have found it in like Palpatine's like secret stash. Because think
Yep.
about it. Remember the last time we saw that saber was in the rotunda, or
Yep.
the rotunda at the at Coruscant when he knocked it out of his hands.
Yeah.
You know Palpatine found that saber and it's like, okay, I have Yoda's saber, the Grandmaster of them all. So
Yeah.
he was he in the what's the second game? Battlefront. He
Uh-huh.
goes to
Yeah.
Palpatine's one of his
Observatory
secret
thing.
chambers
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
takes
yeah.
like the compass.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's not surprising he would go and find like these places. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
That's cool. It's again giving us that information that Luke, and it's funny because I was surprised it took him this long to start constructing a Jedi temple. He's been going around the galaxy, and I guess Grogu is the reason why it's like, I could see this guy's my first student. Maybe I should start settling down, so to speak, and actually start
Right.
continuing this Jedi Order. So it's been pretty cool, like getting that little backstory that's taken this long for him to actually settle down. He's been, I guess, going all over the galaxy, and like you said, Milton, maybe they can give us some kind of series. If not, maybe some comics or a book or book series or something of him on his own solo, just going around the galaxy gathering this knowledge, gathering these items that we see later on throughout the films and in the series there.
Right.
Oh yeah, like I think with it, the thing is with Luke, when you guys were talking about it, it brings up an interesting point now that I had a couple minutes to think about it. So we have Luke. It's actually really weird now that you guys brought that up because he's presumably trying to follow the Jedi rules strictly, but if we go strictly off the Last Jedi, Luke was against those strict Jedi rules because he talked about how dogmatic the Jedi were. So like, I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation they kind of put themselves in because Luke, in the Last Jedi, was talking about how dogmatic the Jedi were, and then now they're having him basically do the same thing as the fallen Jedi have before.
Right.
So I don't know. It's an interesting creative choice. I mean, we'll obviously see how it plays out because, like some other creators have said before, when it comes to Luke, the way you build up to what happens to him down the road is build him up as powerful and confident as you can during this timeline, and that'll kind of justify what happens, basically. So,
Yeah.
I can see it heading in that direction. And the good thing is with him, I think we're going to see plenty of him, whether it be in these series or potentially in movie. We have the Kevin Feige and Taika Waititi movies floating around out there somewhere. Whatever those may be. I think we're going to get plenty more of him in that regard. And then, like with Grogu, with his choice with the lightsaber or the Mando armor, I honestly think. I mean, I know it sounds so cliche, but I think he's going to probably levitate both of them. I think he's going to choose both, and it'll go back to that whole. He'll be the first Mandalorian Jedi there has been since like pre-Vizsla or whatever the Mandalorian, the first one was called.
Right.
Ben,
I thought the same thing. No lie. I said why can't he have both?
No. The reason why he can't have both because it wouldn't make sense in the canon, right? Because if he becomes a Jedi, where the hell is he in the sequel trilogy, and why is he not killed by Ben Solo at the academy when it burns? You know what I mean?
But you got to think about it this way. well, just real quick, you got to think about it this way though. If he becomes even if he chooses to be a Jedi, he would still be a youngling because the sequel trilogy is only 25 years away. So in Grogu's timeline, I mean, Luke basically says to Grogu, like, hey, you choose to be a Jedi your whole life, this human guy is going to die before you're even, realizing.
Cool. I like that line,
that was pretty dark. I was like, man.
Yeah.
So the thing is with Grogu, I think that's why he'll potentially choose both. Is I think he'll, I really think he's going to choose both, just because it's just so cliche, and I feel like it just fits. It fits Star Wars, it's just a Star Wars thing.
All right. Real quick before we get into our thoughts, then we'll go into predictions and some other topics relating this. I loved how we got the inverse of Luke training Grogu versus Yoda training Luke.
Right.
And about how there are even exact shots replicated, like Luke front flipping over some kind of tree root or something like that. Like all those cool little moments of that montage, really, with the music and just the whimsical nature of it with the Force, and Luke just climbing this tree and just showing the vast expanse of the Force at work with balance and all these key Jedi things that George Lucas, really cemented down with Star Wars. And I don't care if it's been repeated multiple times. People are like, oh, here they go with the nostalgia. It's well, the Force is one of the biggest aspects of Star Wars. And I certainly don't mind learning about more of it, or at least being reminded of it from time to time. So what'd you guys think about that whole sequence?
Loved it. Again, anything with Luke using a Force or a lightsaber, I'm not taking my eyes off the screen. And again, I like the parallel, like you mentioned, between Yoda and Luke versus Luke and Grogu. It shows that Luke learns something, and that he's what's the phrase that Yoda used? Unlearn what you have learned. He's doing that. He's teaching and passing along the Jedi knowledge, and it's cool to get the reference to Yoda, the parallel linear storytelling of how Luke interacted with Yoda first, carrying on. It was cool to see that, and I thought they did a good job at trying to explain what type of teacher Luke is and will be projecting to be. Because Luke could have easily been annoyed with Grogu and how he was, but Luke was very patient, and that's something Luke normally wasn't when we first met the kid. Now he's patient. Now he's more understanding. He understands that it's not about him. It's about this student he's teaching. Luke is very much at Zen at this point because he's at the most confident. You beat the Emperor. You saved your father. You saved the galaxy. Nothing can break your spirit at this point until, obviously, spoiler alert, Ben Solo, comes along. Which I'm assuming Ben's born right now. Ben has to be 5 years old. 5 years old at this point, maybe 4. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think I echo pretty much all of those points, Milton. I love the Zen. It really did have a mystical feel to Luke. Just when he was talking, when he was walking, it just felt like you were talking to Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. It just felt like that. And also the good thing with Luke is just the fact that he, I feel like he's aware that Grogu is also still kind of like a baby. So, he's not as tough per se, I guess, on him as you would be potentially a 15-year-old human student, say Ben Solo would be or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another key factor that's playing into it as well. And I mean, come on, Luke may be battle hardened and everything right now, but he can't look at that little thing and go, that's not cute at all. I have a soft spot for it already. So I don't know. I just feel with, they really nailed that inverse relationship between Luke and Yoda. And then I just loved, the conversations between Luke saying oh, he's spoken riddles and this and that. It felt right. It felt like Luke was a master at this point. He literally felt like he was a Jedi master. He was at this point, and he was, Luke. Basically, what we always imagined, what we always wanted Luke to be, is exactly what Luke was in this sequence. And even though it wasn't even an action sequence, him pulling out his lightsaber, man, I about jumped out of my seat when he did that. Just because it was holy smokes, that green lightsaber, just the noise it makes, just everything. I literally just about jumped out of my seat because Like, it's wild because another thing too with that, him pulling out his green lightsaber, that means we're going to get it in action in this.
I hope so.
Eventually.
I need
So-
honestly. This is one thing I think we need to truly see Luke at his peak in a lightsaber duel against someone. Like
Here's the
I need to
thing.
see him like in peak power, looking like his dad, wrecking
Okay.
people.
All right, we're gonna save something
continue.
for the
Right.
predictions because I literally got something that just sparked in my mind, but I do want to finish up with I'll let you finish your thought, Ben, but I do want to get to the score so I can talk about this thing before I forget about it.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I was just saying. I think, I just really like the relationship they're developing already with Luke and Grogu. And we knew from the beginning. Soon as you saw the shot of Mando looking at Grogu from far away, you knew he wasn't ever going to meet up with him. You knew that 100%. But I think with Luke and Grogu, it's going to be interesting just to see how they reconnect Mando with Grogu eventually. Will it be in combat? Will it be Mando going back to that planet? Will it, potentially we might see Luke on a mission with Grogu, and that's how they'll bump into Mando. Like, I think there's a lot of possibilities, and we just have Luke's also still learning from Ahsoka. You can tell. So like that's another possibility. Maybe Luke could potentially have something go on, and he meets with Ahsoka again to talk to her. Like, there's so many options they put on the table for us in this episode, and it's crazy. Like, this is the most like excitement I felt since last week, but since last week basically, and before that not a lot, but yeah, I think it's going in such a good direction.
So let's wrap up by giving our scores out of 10. We have a couple more topics relating to Book of Boba Fett we'll get into. I'll start off with Milton. You go first. Final thoughts, man, and score out of 10 as always.
This is going to be the shortest one I've ever presented. 10 out of 10.
Oh,
it's 10 out of 10. Like I mean, and the reason why I'm saying this, and just because there's this episode for what it was. Don't forget, people, it's called the Book of Boba Fett, not Boba Fett. This is a chapter within the Mando verse of this universe and of this series. So when I hear people say this is a getting away from Boba Fett, blah 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 blah, no, because it's going to tie into the finale some way, shape, or form. They're going to show how Grogu and Mando somehow reconnect in the finale. I guarantee you that. Maybe Luke will show up, but you have to build up their stories right now to pay off in the finale if or when they get there to that point. I love the character development. I love we got plot points moving the story forward with the Pikes, with Cad Bane. I love the visuals and music. 10 out of 10, perfect episode. I can't say nothing wrong about this one.
all right. I will go next. Can't say much more than that than you did, but talking about this episode, I'll just echo saying I've gotten those big story beats in Star Wars I would have never thought I would have gotten, right? A Jedi Master, Luke Skywalker, training the next lineage, the next wave of Star Wars Jedi in this post Return of the Jedi era. We're getting to see things like Cobb Vanth versus Cad Bane, right? Just the fact that there was Luke and Cad Bane in the same episode, like those two separate could have been enough conversation for well over an hour. So having all that, getting the Pikes to actually have a little bit of a threat, right? There's just so much going on that I gotta give it a 9 out of 10. I feel like the finale could do even more, so I'm getting my score to be a little bit on the conservative side, but I'll throw it over to Ben.
Well, I'm definitely not on the conservative side. 10 out of 10 easily. I think the episode was excellent. It basically set everything in motion that we wanted to be set in motion. And for any sports fans out there, like Bill Belichick with the Patriots, the coach, he always said, like, do your job. And the thing is, the first 4 episodes, they were not doing their job of like entertaining us. They were not giving us action. They were not giving us what we wanted out of this series. And now they're doing their job. They're like, okay, well, we gotta step it up a notch. So we bring in Mando last week, and then we bring in Luke and Grogu and Ahsoka and Cad Bane and Cobb Vanth. Let's just keep lining them up. Like, now they're doing their job. And this feels like a great, like we're going to end in a great way. I think Boba's character, they basically set him up. I feel like they almost completed his arc almost through the first 4 episodes. Like his arc feels like it's, we know where he's at, we know what he's about, so now it's time to check out the other characters. And like as Milton said, this is just a chapter in Boba Fett's life, and every book has different chapters. Like we don't stick with the main character for the entire thing, unless you watch the Joker movie, then you do. So so the thing is, like with this whole thing, the way they introduce the characters, the mysticism of Luke, the relationship between him and Grogu, they brought back the cute, charming moments that we always wanted, like with Grogu. Like that's always such a big draw. And then overall, just including the general audience the way Dave and John and Rodriguez did, so everybody can watch it, whether it be general audience members or hardcore people like us analyzing every little Star Wars tweet on the internet. Like it's a show for everybody, and they're really bringing pleasing everybody as an audience, and they're just making this feel like Star Wars to be excited about again. And it really is giving us, in my opinion, vibes of the original trilogy, like the mysticism of the original trilogy of the Force. Like not to like bash on the prequels, but one of the critiques of the prequels is just quantifying the Force with midichlorians, and this really has the whole mysticism of the Force feel to it. It doesn't feel like midichlorians at all. So like to me, all of that combined, plus just the overall stakes, the action with Cad Bane and everything, it's easily a 10 out of 10. And to me, it's the second best episode behind Mando season 2 finale out of all of these Disney Plus shows.
Dang.
Yeah, Chris, before we go on, I would like to say these last 2 episodes are just great interludes in a Star Wars book. Think about like the books that we got post or when Disney took over. A lot of the books had those interludes, like Empire's End had a lot of interludes and those are some of the best parts of those books. Were the interludes?
Aftermath gave us Aftermath. Top band.
Yeah, so like think about it. Book of Boba Fett. These last 2 episodes were great interludes to what's going to help build the story moving forward.
Yeah, so let's build right off of that point. That's one of the topics I want. We're going to talk about how we feel about this show with what the criticism is about, too much on Mando and not enough on Boba. We're going to get into that, and we're also going to talk about our predictions for the final episode, then we'll move on from here. But I got a really cool tweet thread that I was reading through earlier today. It's from this one person here. As I pull it up, as I'm looking, as I'm trying to buy time, as I'm trying to look through my tweets here. Okay, so this is this person named Adam Frazier, and he must have like 10 or 12 tweets in this thread explaining why it's not a bad thing about characters like Luke and Ahsoka and all these other Mandalorian mainstays are in the Book of Boba Fett. One of the easiest things explanation here is on the Investors Day, Kathleen Kennedy was explaining what's coming out, and she literally said that the next chapter, keyword next chapter, keywords next chapter of the Mandalorian story would premiere in December 2021, right? So, it's not directly called The Mandalorian, but as Milton was mentioning, if this show was going to be just on Boba Fett, they would have called it Boba Fett, just like some other things like Cassian Andor series and stuff like that. So the fact that it says the Book of Boba Fett, it's like, hey, there's other characters that could be in this book of Boba Fett. And it's all, what I'm thinking here is there's like each season is progressing the overall story as we're seeing already. Like, it doesn't matter if it's called Boba Fett. They could just call this like the Star Wars series, because every season of it that's linked is going to carry the story forward. We're going to get and what was explained in his tweet thread is like every character that is in the Book of Boba Fett has some kind of relationship with Boba Fett. It's not like they're completely detached, right? Obviously, Cobb Vanth and Boba Fett. Cobb Vanth has the armor. Is he going to live up to the armor's name and all that kind of thing? Mandalorian obviously got helped by Boba Fett. That's why he's going to help out Boba Fett. You have Ahsoka. All these characters. Luke had a relationship with Boba Fett where he fought against him and different things like that. So you could draw a line of connection to basically every one of these characters that people are kind of criticizing for taking too much of the limelight. Grogu was connected to Boba Fett because Grogu ended up being saved by Boba Fett and all this kind of stuff there. So it really all adds up to the whole thing being, yeah, is it kind of weird how the titles are? Sure. But with that being said, we just got to look at it and be like, hey, this is one continuous story. People were saying ahead of time, this is Mandalorian season 2.5. I'm thinking too, like, we haven't got an official name of the Mandalorian season 3. But what happens if it's not called the Mandalorian season 3? What happens if it's just called something completely different and we're just assuming it's called Mandalorian season 3? Now, of course, for like metrics reasons and different things like that, they're probably going to call it Mandalorian season 3 because that's what everybody knows it as. But maybe they'll give it like some cool subtitle, like The Mandalorian Restoring Mandalore. Or I don't know. They can come up with like a cool like subheading. You know what I mean? So I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think when it comes to this, a lot of people, really laid in about the whole, is this, the whole issue that you mentioned about Book of Boba and is Boba in it, or, Mando and this, that, the other thing. We've seen the whole discourse. And my thing with it is also, to go along with Kathleen, anybody who wants like video evidence, go watch Favreau's video with Good Morning America from a couple years ago. His interview on Good Morning America is so weird. I looked at it a couple months ago, and it's still so weird because he's like, The Mandalorian season 3, or however he says it, or like, is coming next December. And then he like backtracks and he's like, no, it's the Book of Boba. So it's like, wait. What did you just say? So like, the way, just watch that interview, and it is weird as weird gets for being someone who's, for Star Wars, an employee of Star Wars being so buttoned up, he let it slip. It was like a Freudian slip, basically. So, even from Favreau, it's on video. So you have that. And then also my thing is, like, okay, for all the people talking about the Boba Fett issue, do we really, like, objectively, can we watch these last 2 episodes and say, no, let's get rid of these. Let's have 3 more episodes sitting in the desert with the Tuscans. Like, let's see what people have to say then, because I guarantee you they would not be happy about that, and then they'd be the same people complaining, going, "We're not getting enough action. We're not getting enough Mando. We're not getting enough Grogu, or this or that or the other thing." So, like, it just seems like in today's social media age, you can't please anybody. Like, everybody, it's almost popular to be the contrarian nowadays. Like, it's in Star Wars. I always look at people, for any sports fans, I'm sure, I mean, you'll know for sure, Milton, like, everyone wants to be like Skip Bayless, basically. Always be on the opposite side of everything. And that's pretty much what some Star Wars fans do. They just want to dig in, like, sure, it's fine to be the opposite, like, opinion. That's totally fine. But sometimes people do it just out of spite, it feels like, just to get a tweet going, like, have tons and tons of people responding. So, like, to me, I think it's totally fine how they're doing things. I do wish they would have potentially, I don't even know, maybe made, instead of, because see, we do have one potential, like last week's episode, this week's episode, and the finale, we do have potential of a lot of things being crammed in. So I do wish the first 4 episodes would have been cut down to 2, and then potentially made this story be more of like the final 5 episodes, like more drawn out potentially. But like overall, I don't see an issue with it. And I think, us as Star Wars fans, we want to get like hardcore and opinionated about it. But I guarantee you, like Milton, if you like ask your brother, or ask my grandma, or ask people who just kind of generally watch it, who are more casual Star Wars fans, they don't care. They just want a good show. They just want a good, cohesive show, and that's what they're getting. Because all the general audience members last week, when you have Mando pop up, everyone's standing up, clapping, going, "It's Mando, we're back!" Like, woo! Like, that's all they're saying. They don't care. Like, they want Grogu, they want Mando, they want Luke. Like, it's good connectivity. And then, like your point, Chris, like, all these people are connected to Mando. Like, to Boba. We got Grogu, we got Ahsoka, we got Luke, all these people that are connected to Boba. So the Book of Boba Fett could also mean the book of people in Boba Fett's life. So, It's just I think it's a good overall connective arch, and I think a lot of people are just reading into it way too much.
Yeah, because here's the thing: the main plot of the Book of Boba Fett with the Pikes and everything, it all stems from Boba Fett. Really, it all stems from his past with the
Mhm.
Pikes and all this kind of thing. So we got to understand that, because whatever's going to emerge at the end of this next episode, and I'm still saying it's Crimson Dawn, we're gonna need to know where the hell they came from, and seeing from Boba Fett's perspective is an entrance into that world and their perspective, and then Crimson Dawn's gonna probably run rampant throughout the rest of the Mandoverse for several seasons. I would assume they're gonna be a constant threat, and they might not get revealed. I feel like they aren't gonna get revealed to any of the heroes in this next episode. What's gonna and crap, I'm talking about the predictions, so I'll kind of end it there a little bit. It's gonna have basically this is every season of a Mandoverse show is going to have more or less like a main character where that character's plot is going to
Mhm.
carry forward, and you're going to have the guest appearances. So we'll have a Mando season 3, and it's going to be about Mando probably going to get the underneath Mandalorian crust to get inside that well. And then you're going to have maybe a character like Boba Fett helping him get there or something, and then maybe Luke helping him explore or something like that. So it's like you're going to have that character name theme season with a bunch of other crossovers happening. So it's not anything that hasn't been done before.
No, I agree. And like I said, I'm not really touch on much more of this because you guys explained it very well. Again, the show's doing what it needs to do to progress their story, and they know where they're going with this, and that's the issue. We don't know how it's going to end next week. So I think a lot of fans are like, "This is pointless. Why are you putting all these characters in here?" It's like, no, let it play out. Then let at the end of the series or at the end of the season, then we'll say, was it justified to have these last two episodes be here? X, Y, and Z. I'm ready for the finale. I think we'll get a significant payoff. I think there will be a lot of open-ended questions, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so let's dive into our preview and our predictions for the final episode, episode 7 of season 1 of the Book of Boba Fett. And well, we were talking earlier in the episode about, hey, what's gonna go on with Grogu? Maybe he'll choose to be a Jedi pupil underneath of Luke Skywalker, or maybe he'll be a Mandalorian. And Ben was saying, oh, and Milton was agreeing with, hey, maybe he'll choose both. So maybe what we could see, because we gotta have payoff, right? They didn't introduce Grogu and Mando in a Book of Boba Fett season without getting them to at least get together in the last episode, right? They're building up something, and I feel like has to be paid off in the next
Mm.
episode. What happens if Luke Skywalker shows up in his X-wing on Tatooine to deliver Grogu, to give him a ride basically to this place, and there
Right.
he sees a big battle. They get there in time for a huge battle, and maybe we have. This is so far fetched that I'm just laughing trying to say it because it's kind of crazy. But I made a
I
video
mean that
about.
that doesn't sound crazy. To me, it don't sound crazy because literally Luke said like, if you want to go back to him, you can go back to him. And let's be real here. People forget. Don't let's not forget. Tatooine is Luke's home planet, so he's very familiar with it, and so he may have a stake in it. Like, well, I don't want my planet to go to shit, so I'm gonna go back here and help him out.
eh,
So you never know, man. And Luke could be wrecking shop when he
Well,
gets there. I hope he
here
better wreck shop.
here's the thing. For him to wreck up shop, right? Ben was talking about how cool it looked to use a lightsaber, green lightsaber in action. He was going crazy, and we're like, we want to see him actually use it against opponents. Well, let's see who's around at this time that could even pose any kind of threat to Luke. And well, I made a video about this, and I was like, okay, maybe the Knights of Ren will be there. Maybe we'll have
I was
Knights
about to
of
say,
Ren,
yeah.
and because he's fought Knights of Ren in one of the Rise of Kylo Ren comics. I was looking back at him earlier, and it was the issue number 3 where he actually goes with Lor San Tekka, and Ben Solo, and they arrive at this place, and it almost seemed like Luke had experience with them, because he said like something about like they wield the Force like it's a hammer, like they have like
Mm.
no precision with the Force. And I have to go back and read the dialogue, but there could have been a reference to like maybe he's fought them already before, or some versions of them, because there's different members of them, and we have seen them in the recent Star Wars Crimson Reign series where they are being commanded by Kira. So I think like the way that this story could end is like the Knights of Ren show up there, and it's like you have Cad Bane going up against Boba Fett, but then you have Luke going up against like the Knights of Ren. So you have like two different like action sequences happening simultaneously at Jabba's palace, and then like the battle will end, and the characters, the heroes, won't know that Crimson Dawn was the one that sent Cad Bane and Knights of Ren. But like, you might have Cad Bane that gets away, and Cad Bane's like
Right.
in his ship, like escaping, and he's like, he makes a hollow call to Kira and says like, await the dawn, or some like the cheesy
Right.
line
Right.
that they're all saying in the comics. And it's like, and that's it. That, like, we know they're there, but our heroes don't know they're there, and they're gonna continue with like unfolding the plot with like Boba Fett throughout the next couple seasons of the shows, and that's how Grogu will connect with Mando, because they'll all be fighting together. So that's like my pie in the sky, like very fan heavy prediction. So I want to see if you guys have any input, or if you have your own ideas,
Right.
because this could be kind of
So
fun to
here's
talk about.
here's my prediction for Luke showing up. If Luke would happen, we'll probably get to Luke. Obviously, there's gonna be some type of like battle, war. You know, they've been mentioning the word war throughout the last couple episodes. So you know there's gonna be some type of mafia gang war that with the Pikes and Boba's crew. That's given. When it comes to Luke, this is my fanboy theory. I want to see Luke versus Cad Bane. I want to see Cad make Luke work for it, and I want to see Cad get away. And like you said, this goes into your theory of awake the dawn when he reaches out to, to what's her name, Kira. Like, but that fight will be badass because he has like jet packs and all type of stuff, or jet rockets on his legs. Maybe he can wield a vibro blade for all we know. So like that'd be cool if Cad Bane can use a vibro blade against Luke with his guns, with his bounty hunter skills, and Luke would like. It'd be kind of dope to see how Luke progresses with his fighting technique against Cad Bane. Because didn't Obi-Wan, or it might have been Anakin, fought him? One of the two.
Wait, he fought Obi-Wan and Quinlan Vos at the same time.
That's what it was, yes.
And at one point, I forget whose saber, but he actually grabbed somebody's saber.
He grabbed a saber.
I think it was
Obi-Wan's. I think he grabbed Obi-Wan's.
He beat Obi-Wan, yeah.
Yeah, because and again, we all think Obi-Wan's nice. And Obi-Wan struggled against him. Imagine if Luke tried to fight him. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like Clone Wars set the precedent for Cad Bane to not be scared of Jedi Knights.
That'd be awesome, because think about it, right? We've seen how much ass Luke kicked when it came to those Dark Troopers in that hallway. We've seen how powerful he is. We've seen how good Cad Bane is. He takes Cobb Vanth and the deputy out like instantaneously after we've seen the work that Cobb Vanth did to the Pikes. So we have both of these characters that have had their reputations shown up as being exceptional in combat. Now, it's like, all right, let's see them both pitted against one another. I think that's a really good prediction. And they're both known characters. The Knights of Ren thing is just way out of left field.
Right.
But I think that's even more likely. You know what I mean?
Right. Pretty much it could be the same fight, but higher stakes and probably better choreography, like it was in Attack of the Clones between Jango and Obi-Wan.
Oh,
like think about that. Think about that fight in modern times and how we can project like the fighting skills, the technology. Like it could be off the chain. Like hell, they could be fighting on top of Jabba's palace for all we know.
Oh,
like
man.
I just look. I'm just throwing it out there because your boy out here got a crazy imagination. I just want to see Luke wreck some shop against Cad on the palace, something like that.
And we can't forget about the Rancor. I mean, they didn't bring a Rancor into the show without us showing Boba actually riding on one, wrecking like the Pikes. I could see could see three battles. I could see like the Pikes versus Boba, freaking with Black Chrysanthemum firing away. You have like the main force of people, like the big war. Then you have your subsections of like Luke versus Cad Bane and Mando and somebody. Like, it's gonna be pretty cool if they can pull it off. But I want to hear if you have any predictions there, Ben.
Oh yeah, like I have some. Obviously we have basic predictions. Like I think for sure, I think there's a chance we're gonna get Grogu and Luke for sure in the finale, because why would you build the Grogu car seat basically in the Naboo Starfighter if you're not gonna have him be back in the Naboo Starfighter? So I think there's a chance we could potentially get them reunited. Maybe that's how it'll end, Mando flying away with Grogu at the very, very end. Mm-hmm. I think there's a chance for that. And then I had a really long think about it. So we have, like you said, we're going to have a multifaceted final battle. We'll have like kind of like the Mafia war stuff, like, Chrysanthemum and Cobb Vanth and Boba scrapping it out. And, we'll have those type of dealings going on with the Pikes. And then we'll have Mando. Don't forget Fennec Shan. We haven't mentioned her. Fennec Shan's going to be wrecking people. she's going to be
Oh,
wrecking people for
I
sure.
still think
Facts.
she's turning. I still think she's turning on them. I think she's going to be
Well,
an agent of I don't know,
So pretty
somehow
much, so
reveals that.
pretty much, he's saying, Ben, that Fennec's gonna pull an NWO Hogan at Bash at
yep.
the Beach '96, turn on the Ultimate War, or not Macho Man Randy Savage, and join the Outsiders. Chris, what I'm talking about is a wrestling thing, okay? It's a heel turn. Like Hulk Hogan
That,
became a bad guy when everyone didn't know about it and joined the NWO.
I think she for sure. Yeah, I think initially maybe she'll be wrecking people, but then it'll be the heel turn time. I do
Yeah.
see that potentially happening. That, we'll get the battle. We'll for sure get some good traditional action because Rodriguez is directing this, and he did direct the episode of Boba from Mando season 2, which we all loved the action. So he should do a good job at his action directing. But
Oh,
now here's
really?
my crazy fan theory. So hear me out on this one. So we get Grogu and Luke coming to Tatooine for whatever. Like you said, Milton, like maybe they'll come there and be like, oh man, there's a war going on here or something. What if we get a scene where the Pikes are coming in, potentially, I don't know, Crimson Dawn, a lot of these bad guys are coming in. We're going to have Luke wrecking shop with the green lightsaber, but he's getting surrounded. And then what if we get a throwback to Attack of the Clones and get Luke and Mando back to back darksaber and green lightsaber, like just, I don't know, surrounded, and then we had Boba flying with the slave one, pop, 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 pop.
Oh,
Like
Yeah,
man.
that'd be kind of cool.
just kind of a throwback to Attack of the Clones, like something like that. Because the thing is, I think either way, whether that crazy theory happens or our crazy theories, I think we're going to get the Crimson Dawn reveal at some point. I think that's a given. I think that will happen, like at least the hint at it. I don't think Cad Bane's dying because you're not going to introduce Cad just to knock him off. And then I do think Grogu and Luke are for sure coming just because I really think Grogu might go back with Mando potentially in this episode. Like there's a good chance of it because you build that port in the Starfighter for Grogu to sit in. Like I think it's going to happen. Like I think you're going to have that payoff potentially. Man, gosh, what if we get Grogu on his first mission as a Padawan with Luke in Mando armor in that Mando chainmail?
Yeah,
But
I'm picturing it right now. Like him actually deflecting blaster bolts with like that little chainmail on.
yeah, I mean, it could happen though. That's the thing because they wouldn't be giving us the chainmail and the green lightsaber unless he's going to use them at some point. And what if this is his like first little Jedi mission or whatever, and Luke takes him out on it, and he's like, "Hey, this is your time, buddy." So, and we go to save his dad, basically. I think it would be really cool. I do think we're gonna get. I really think we're gonna get Luke. Side note, I do think we will have a death at some point. Someone's gonna die. I think if Fennec doesn't turn, there's a chance Fennec gets taken out.
Yeah.
I do think Black Chrysanthemum probably gets taken out just because he's not as necessary for the series, especially moving forward. Because if you think about it, his character, I mean, Fennec Shan could turn. Obviously, the heroes are all safe for the most part. And Black Chrysanthemum's not going to really pertain to the story of going to Mandalore and doing all that. So I think there's a chance he's taken out. And I think Boba's safe because they wouldn't be reintroducing him either just to kill him. So I think most of the characters are going to be safe. But if Black Chrysanthemum gets taken out, I think he's going to get taken out in a really badass way.
Yeah. Well, there you guys have it. Those are our predictions for the Book of Boba Fett Season 1 finale. Let us know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on this season finale. So getting back to the brunt of the news here, finally, after an hour and 45 minutes in, I'm going to quickly go over the comics out this week. We have Crimson Reign issue number 2. Hey, we're speaking about Book of Boba Fett. This could be a tie-in. We aren't sure yet, but Crimson Reign 2 has Ochia Bestoon going to send a message from Kira to the Emperor. So Ochia Bestoon gets these poisons. He has access to one of those Darth Maul like probe droids, and between him and the probe droid, they poison all the royal guards. And it's a pretty badass scene because you see the royal guards reporting to the Emperor Palpatine in his chambers on Coruscant, and next thing you know, like 30 of the guards just collapse, and like the Emperor is actually like taken aback. He's like, oh, like you can actually see like he falters, like the Emperor knows so much, and it's like, holy crap, like here's sending him, the most powerful person in the galaxy, a message that he didn't foresee. So that was really cool. We also get the High Republic issue number 14, and that is the penultimate issue of the High Republic. So we have Avar Kriss and all these Jedi rushing to the Starlight Beacon as it's about to disintegrate. And we also have a brand new series, mini-series. It's Galactic Star Cruiser Halcyon Legacy number 1. This is, your usual kind of tie into a new Star Wars theme park, and that's for the hotel. So we have that. But I have breaking news. We have breaking news. I got to get some kind of like sound effect on this show because I don't know if you guys see this pop up, but I was looking at the article as it popped up. This comes to us from Jordan Mason on Cinelinx. We have a brand new series on the horizon, a brand new live action series on the horizon.
Okay.
The title is Kid Focused High Republic live action series in the works, exclusive. All right, so this is a very good source. Like, this guy has run with a lot of things that have panned out. It's not like your Joe Blow source or whatever it could be. Like, this is
or Mike Zero.
credit. Yeah. So I'm gonna read through the article as quickly as I can. The High Republic era is continuing to expand, as we've heard a new live action series is in the works, with the focus being on a younger generation of heroes. Over the past few weeks, I'm gonna skip that. Basically, they're saying this is Stranger Things in space. Stranger Things in space.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Hear me out on this. So he's saying, it's the description I heard almost verbatim from two different sources, months apart from each other. The context behind it is Lucasfilm is apparently working on a new, as yet unannounced, live-action Star Wars series for Disney+. Unlike their current/upcoming shows, however, the primary cast and focus of the story would be kids in the preteen to teenage range, hence the Stranger Things comparison. Beyond that, independent sources also said that the series was going to be set during the High Republic era with a member of the Luminous team of authors on board to help with the story. So I'm thinking that's Claudia Gray. Let's see, there's some other things here. Okay, it's saying at the end of this, it's saying I'm still trying to gather more information on the show itself, which might feature some characters from the books. From what I can tell, however, things to be moving along pretty well, as I've seen some stuff that leads me to believe casting is likely already underway or starting shortly. Hopefully this means we'll get some sort of announcement sooner rather than later. So there you go. And we already have some stuff with the Acolyte, right? That's a series that might be that is happening with the High Republic, and he's still saying that he's hearing about this animation project is still in the works. So that's a potential of 3 different Star Wars series centered around the High Republic. I know you're showing some quick reactions there, Milton, so I'll throw it over to you. What do you think about this code name Stranger Things in Space?
I ain't buying it. Sorry. I listen. I like Stranger Things. I love the show. I can't wait for season 4 to come out this year. It's fire. But I don't see Star Wars doing well with a Stranger Things type theme. And again, people weren't very receptive to young Anakin and Phantom Menace, and people were weird about Ahsoka when she was a teenager when she first came on the scene. So unless they make it a smart, witty, funny show with that adult theme mixed in it, okay, it could work. I mean, anything could work. But from what I'm hearing, I just don't know if I'm going to want to see it. I think I'd have to wait until you watch it or other reviewers watch it. But all right, maybe I can jump into it. But just hearing the synopsis, I'm not hyped about it. Not saying it's going to be trash, but I just don't feel energetic. Like if you just say Kenobi, oh, I'm watching it because it's Kenobi. But this show, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll throw it over to Ben.
I don't even know where to start. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that either, actually. Just because my thing is, at this point, I mean, don't get me wrong. Star Wars is like heavily commercialized and everything, but at this point, Stranger Things just feels too like commercialized too. I don't think Star Wars can fit that format of storytelling. You know,
Mhm.
because Star Wars, even all these. I mean, look, we can't compare Stranger Things to this most recent episode of Boba, but this episode, it's just so like mystic and like it just sets the tone. Like even in Mando, like if you look at the Mando series, like every episode feels like Star Wars. And to me, the Stranger Things model doesn't feel like Star Wars. Like you can look at certain things and see, you can kind of tell if something feels like a Star Wars thing. Like this episode of Boba felt like Star Wars. Other projects entirely, like they have the Star Wars vibes or mysticism to them. Like look at for example, The Last Crusade or any of the Indiana Jones movies, like they have the story beats that you'd feel like in a Star Wars movie. Like, don't get me wrong, Steven Spielberg obviously is the greatest director ever, but like he was close with George, but his storytelling style is similar to the way Star Wars stories are structured. Like to me, Stranger Things just feels more, uh, more I guess like more CW, like Riverdale-esque type storytelling. Like it just doesn't feel like it would be a good Star Wars potential series. Again, we would have to just see, as you said, Milton, we would have to see how it would play out. See, obviously the trailers, we're years away, probably 3 years away from this potentially coming out. But I think, I think it just comes down to like what the story is really. Storytelling is key. And I don't think like you can play up the mystery of like the Mandalorian of like, oh, where's Grogu or where's this type of stuff. But I don't think you could play up a mystery the way Stranger Things works. Like in the Star Wars universe, if that makes sense.
All right, so I disagree. Well, guys, you're expecting that response from me because
Right.
I've been reading all these things, and Tim Sheets, I gotta agree with him in our chat. He's saying sounds like the High Republic Adventures comics, and he's saying that could mean it's somehow tied to the Drengir. The Drengir remind me of the Stranger Things monsters, and I really have to say I think this is a fantastic idea. Because if you look at the slate of Star Wars feature live action series, we're kind of missing that little thing, right? I mean, we don't really have anything that's based off of a younger generation. So that could be what ties people in. But it's so funny that this pops up because my father literally just started watching Stranger Things and he's loving it, right? So there's already a precedent set that even if it's based off of a younger generation of characters, adults can still really enjoy these stories and they can
Okay.
still really be
Well,
fascinating.
I'll say the
and
difference with
entertaining.
that, Chris. My only thing is with Stranger Things. I'm assuming your dad's what, in his 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Okay, that time period reminds him of like probably his 20s because it was in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably got that nostalgia feeling of like, oh, that's what I saw as a young adult. That's why I can connect to what these kids are going through, kinda. Like that's the difference with Stranger Things. I think when adults look at it compared to like me looking at a Star Wars show with kids. Now, again, there are some similarities too, so I can't be a hypocrite and say there isn't. But I think that's a difference from Stranger Things compared to doing a Star Wars theme like that.
Well, Milton, gosh, this is this is the debate with Chris podcast now, but
Yeah.
but my thing with it is, do we quote unquote need that because Star Wars is accessible to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my thing. Like Star Wars, like I mean, Lucas himself has said Star Wars is for kids. So like my thing is are all the movies like is the original trilogy, the prequels, is the Mandalorian? I mean, Grogu 100% is for the younger audience and marketing, but it's an access point for younger viewers. So like my thing is, do we need a specific younger audience thing because Star Wars is accessible to everybody? This isn't like, take we always reference The Godfather on here. This isn't like they're saying, hey, let's let a 12-year-old watch The Godfather. Like, that's probably not the best
Right.
choice. So, it'd be different if we were saying, like, hey, let's start a kids series in the Godfather universe. So, like, okay, that could make sense because the Godfather, or a more younger viewing audience series in the Godfather universe, because that's not available for their viewing experience. But for me, Star Wars is accessible to everybody. Like, I have a few younger cousins that have been watching Star Wars since they were like 7, 8, 9 years old, and they love it. So, like, I feel like it's accessible. I think, to
Here's
me,
the thing.
hearing something like, to me, this. Well, 1 minute. I'll finish up this point real quick. To me, I just think this is like playing to that Netflix audience, if that makes sense. That demographic.
Well, here's the
viewers.
thing. Look at what content we have all loved, right? We all love Lost Stars. That is a young adult
True.
novel. That's based off of basically kids, right? And we've all loved it. We've seen how that story integrates. We've seen how there's a lot of adult characters, obviously, that intersect with generally these teenagers going through this entire war front. And I think Claudia Gray, who is the author of that book, is going to be involved heavily with this. And they mentioned in this, Jordan Mason mentions there's a luminous author here. And we know that she's up to something because she wasn't telling us in the last thing what she was up to. And it was something big, apparently. Yeah, you had Kathleen Kennedy on the last year and the 1 year anniversary of the High Republic. She came on the video and said we have very exciting projects. And I don't think she would do that for just any books. I think that she was maybe hinting at this announcement that we haven't got officially yet. But I look at the High Republic Adventure comics and I think they're better than a lot of the Marvel comics, honestly, that deal with just adult characters, like these characters that are created in the High Republic Adventures. They have a lot of deep, horrifying past and maturity about these characters that it just transcends the fact that, oh yeah, it's just a kid's comic. Like, there's actually a lot of stakes and a lot of relationship issues that are like life and death and different things. And plus, I mean, I have to agree again, going back to Tim's thought about the Drengier. Like, they could have really awesome looking creature designs and make it almost like a Star Wars horror kind of vibe. And then you have the Nile. If this is set during the same time of the books, you have the Nile, which, if I could see those guys in live action, that would be absolutely horrifying, because a lot of the High Republic is presented as a horror series. You have these creatures that come out in these clouds of yellow poisonous gas, and they have these gas masks, and they're all different designs, and they have barbaric Viking-like ways. Like, I can imagine right now just seeing that in live action coming to life, and just the exploration of a time period that we haven't seen anywhere near this far back in Star Wars. This could be our first peek at something that closer, much closer to the Old Republic, seeing how everything interfaces. And it's just a way to switch things up. I'm down. I'm down with just getting a different kind of set of demographic for characters, and really pulling through with having something that's going to be not just, oh, this is just a kiddie show. There's kids in it, but that just doesn't mean it's lighthearted necessarily.
I think the issue we're talking around at this point, we're talking around here, is Star Wars is so exclusive. We have not even the point of all the storytelling points we talked about and things like that, and everything. I think the issue is we just need more Star Wars coming out more consistently. So I think people may see this, for example, I mean, Milton may feel the same, but I may not be able to speak for him. But my thing is, I'd be worried if I looked at the calendar and this was the only series coming out for, say, 2024. And I think that's what people get nervous about, is when you have, say, one series, like for example, when the Last Jedi came out. That's such an easy thing to talk about. But when The Last Jedi came out, people were like, oh man, this is the only Star Wars thing we're getting. This is the only Star Wars thing we got all year, and it turned out to be this. Or Solo. A lot of people didn't like Solo. We all enjoyed it for the most part, but a lot of people didn't like Solo at all. And they viewed it oh man, Solo's the last Star Wars thing we're getting until Rise of Skywalker. So I think a lot of people when they see some series in development, just subconsciously, you still are in that mindset, whether you want to be or not. It's still there just from
No.
like our past with just dealing with movies is like, we also have to remember like, hey, there's potential, like even though this series may come out and we may not be initially interested in it, there's other series coming out around it. Like there could be Ahsoka season 2 or Mando season 4 or things like that. Like, it could go in that direction. So I think that's also an issue Star Wars fans have, or not even an issue, a quality Star Wars fans have in general, is you still have that thought process in the back of your head, like, oh man, is this the only Star Wars thing coming out? But, luckily for us, we just need to remember, like, it's not the only thing that would be potentially coming out that year.
Yeah, it's a great time for experimentation, right? Like you said, if this was the first thing that Disney Plus put out in front of like Mandalorian season 1, yeah, I think there'd be a lot of room for worry. But like you said, we could be like season 4 of Mandalorian, season 3 of Book of Boba Fett, season 2 of Andor, and it's sandwiched in between Bad Batch season 3 and the High Republic animated series season 1. Like when we get to whatever this point, this will probably be like 2024 at this point. It's going to be at this point where we're going to have multiple Star Wars things maybe releasing the same day. They might have like animation running alongside of like the same release as like a live action show at that point. So it's at that point where it's like, okay, they could, if you want to even clarify or consider a risk for a certain demographic of people that might not, watch it, then that would be the time when they have built up all their other IP within Star Wars to release like around that time of the year anyway. So.
Oh, 100%. Like that's I feel like when it comes to that show, they're definitely going to kind of mitigate or minimize their potential risk with it if it would come out. Like, I think it'll probably end up being like a 6 to 8 episode type series, just to kick things off. And I do feel like they'll release that, but it'll be released within the same calendar year. We'll also be getting another one of those big things like Mando season 4, or potentially the Taika Waititi movie, or potentially the Kevin Feige movie, or whatever, something along those lines. Like it'll be a minimal risk, maximal potential profit.
Yeah.
Because if it hits and it's amazing and great, then we have another great Star Wars show.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't, they can just wrap it.
I'm thinking now, like how crazy far away this actually might seem. This might not be out till like 2025. Because if I'm doing the math right, I don't think that Claudia Gray, who's involved with the High Republic books, will put this thing out if they're still telling the stories in the books, because there is an end date. Like there's supposed to be only 3 phases of the High Republic. Phase 2 isn't going to start until the end of 2022. You figure that's going to go on for an entire year. Yeah, I'm thinking this thing is not coming out till like 2024. At the end of 2024, because I feel like they're not going to want to tiptoe around writing a story if there's still books being told. So this could like continue the books and get closer to like the Acolyte, maybe like in between the Acolyte and the High Republic, because we know that the Acolyte's like at the end of the High Republic. So
yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it heading in that direction. And then also, we have all these things coming out. We have Ahsoka, we have potentially an Andor season 2. We obviously are going to have multiple seasons of Mando. That could be, I mean, remember, I think it was Carl Weathers or John Carlos Esposito, like a couple of years ago, he was like, oh, I can't wait to be playing in Mando for season 3, 4, or 5. Like he listed actual numbers. So it makes you wonder, if they signed him on for like a 5-season contract or something. So, like, I think that'll be running. I think Mando's going to be their longest running show out of these shows, because it is kind of like the Mandoverse. And then we'll have the other shows, and I think we're honestly looking, now that we're talking it out, we're looking at probably 2025 or 2026, if that sounds crazy enough. Yeah. Just because I think all of these Mando shows are going to wrap with the Taika Waititi movie or with the Feige movie. Like, I think we're going to get that type of a Avengers Endgame with all of these shows, teaming up basically. Mm-hmm. And then after that is potentially where we'll start up with like this new show, and and potentially others or movies and things like that.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, there's still more stories to talk about, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more as we get closer to an official announcement of this potential live action High Republic series, which is something I've been kind of screaming for, and it's getting closer to being a reality. So, we have a big comic miniseries that has been revealed, and that is the Marvel's Obi-Wan comic coming out in May. It's a 5-issue miniseries. It's written by Christopher Cantwell, and it's got artwork by one of my favorite artists at Marvel right now, and that is Arya Andito, who actually, tying with the High Republic, he is the artist for the mainline High Republic series, which is just, he creates such great artwork with that series. It really pops off the page. But yeah, so this series is basically the framework of the series is Obi-Wan Kenobi's in his hut a couple days or a couple weeks before Luke Skywalker shows up. This is his journal that he's writing. So he's kind of reminiscing because he feels, as they explain in this article at StarWars.com, he feels like there's a big moment in his life coming, and that is going to be A New Hope, right? So he's kind of going back in it. Each issue is going to go back in his life. So like the first issue is going to be all about him as a youngling in the earliest part of his life with Qui-Gon, like, and him as a youngling. Then I guess there's going to be like a Padawan version, a Clone Wars version. So that's a pretty cool way to tie it into the Obi-Wan series. And when this first came out, a lot of people I think were getting like really hyped up because they're like, they seen the banner like, oh my gosh, they're announcing the Obi-Wan series release date, and then they're like, oh, this is just a comic, you know what I mean? And I think, Ben, you even showed me some person tweeted it out and then took it down or something that the Obi-Wan series is confirmed for May.
It wasn't even some person. It was a Disney executive who was confused. Like, it was an actual executive who works at Disney tweeted and was like, hey guys, can't wait for the Kenobi series, May 2022, blah, blah, blah. And then he deleted his tweet and put his account on private because people were blowing up his Twitter account.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm really looking forward to this comic. We've got an Obi-Wan and Anakin miniseries, but to see Obi-Wan like throughout different moments of his life, getting peaks at different moments we haven't seen. Like we got this really great book with Master and Apprentice. Also, hey, we're talking a lot about High Republic. Author Claudia Gray wrote that one. Great book. We're going to get a lot more Obi-Wan content with the Brotherhood book that is written by Mike Chen from Del Rey. We're also getting that like Jedi Apprentice book-esque type of young adult book, which is going to be about an even earlier part of Obi-Wan's life. So by the time this series comes out, we're going to know like every decade of Obi-Wan's life, except for that big part with him and Satine. Like I feel like they keep hiding that story. It's like from the Clone Wars. It's like I want to know about Satine and Obi-Wan and about that romance and what had happened and all that kind of stuff. But I'll throw it over to Milton. Do you think this is a pretty cool story to tell for Obi-Wan throughout the years?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, I'm not really a comic book reader, so obviously that's your like thing, Chris. But I mean, if they do it right and it makes sense for what they're trying to do, then great. I mean, again, if they tell a good story, then I'll eventually read it. If it's trash and you're reviewing it and say, hey, this comic book is garbage, I ain't reading it. I'm just being honest. But like I said, I love Obi-Wan. I love that character. So and you said, was it Claudia Gray's writing this?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, she can't do no wrong.
Wait, no, Claudia Gray's not writing this. Sorry, I
Or
was just
she's doing the
her.
High Republic stuff. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But like even that though, like everyone who's written for this character loves this character and they know how to write for him. So hopefully it's good. If it's not, then you'll be the first one to tell us.
Yeah, what's interesting, going back to that guy, incidentally, whether or not that's actually a real date he was talking about, but just talking about, hey, this is coming out in May. Could that also be the date of Obi-Wan coming out? I still feel pretty strong that we're going to reveal it on May the 4th like they did Bad Batch Season 1, or they'll wait till Star Celebration and they'll do like kind of like the red carpet event or something at Star Wars Celebration and show it to everybody there and around the world at the same time.
When is Celebration?
That is Memorial Day weekend, so it starts on May 25th, I think.
Oh man, because wasn't May 25th the original Star Wars date?
Oh yeah, because Celebration doesn't start until Thursday, the 26th, the day after.
Because see, I
Damn.
was thinking, man, would they release the Kenobi series on the original Star Wars day? Because I think it's May 25th is when the A New Hope came
Hmm.
out, but it
Yep.
would be before Celebration, and I don't think they'll release it before the event.
Yeah. So that's
Hmm.
pretty cool
Tough.
there. Last story we have for this week, another publishing one. We have a new middle grade novel for Star Wars hunters called Battle for the Arena. This is going to be out on November 1st, and it's about this character of Reeve, who is a basically a Jedi Padawan, kind of like Cal Kestis, but I guess she lost her way. And this is before, I guess, Return of the Jedi, and it talks about her story and about how this game. This is a mobile game that's coming out some point this year, and you can play all different characters. It's an arena kind of game. It's free to play, but
Mm.
I'm happy that they're at least like kind of digging into some of these characters and giving us some kind of canonical story on some of them, because it's at least it's a little bit more than just that, So that's something you could look forward to. That's just a middle grade novel, so it shouldn't be too long. But at least we'll be able to learn a little bit more about that Sith character, because I was like, wait, what the hell? What is a Sith doing in Return of the Jedi? Like, I got to know about
Right.
this character. So of all the characters, at least we're gonna see what's going on with this Sith inspired character. And well, with that being said, we have finally gotten through it. Oh, one quick thing. As mentioned in the Obi-Wan article, there is going to be a compilation of Black Chrysanthemum comic stories called Star Wars Tales Chrysanthemum #1. So for those of you that are like, hey, I really like that cool Wookiee in Book of Boba Fett, how do I know more about him? Well, besides going to Wikipedia, there's going to be a little cool like compilation of comics that have like his most uh cool, like his coolest adventures, against Obi-Wan, and some stuff with Dr. Aphra and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure when that comes out, but be on the lookout from that for your local comic book stores. And well, with that being said, we are finally at the end of the show. I know there's a lot to talk about, but there's also some breaking news, which is always a lot of fun to talk about right as the show is going live. So there you go, another fun-filled show. Penultimate episode of the Book of Boba Fett, episode 6. Went over our predictions. We went over what's going on with people, talking about, is this really a Mandalorian show, or is this a Book of Boba Fett show? Explain a lot of intricacies about the Force. There's so much good discussion in this episode. Yeah, we started off with some technical difficulties, but I think we came through at a strong finish at the end here. Ben, what are you up to this week, and where can the people find you?
Well, we have relatives coming in. We're celebrating. Actually, my dad's retiring 35 years at UPS. So, that's exciting. So we're just going to be hanging out with family all weekend. Also, one final wild card prediction. There's always the chance of that guy with a purple lightsaber popping up at the end of this Book of Boba show. So there's that. But yeah, I think the weekend's just going to be pretty relaxing, hanging out with family, and probably talking with you guys more about Star Wars as always, whether it be on Twitter or us three talking in the group chat. It's always such a great time to be a Star Wars fan, especially right now, like speculating and talking with other fans and everything, because quick story. So there's a girl I follow who's like a big Ohio State football fan. I know her and stuff. And she's not a Star Wars fan by any stretch. And like every week, she's watched basically The Mandalorian and Mandalorian season 2, and that's it. And, it's just mainly because she Grogu. That's the only reason why. And she started watching the Book of Boba, and like every week it was so funny watching her tweets. Like every Wednesday it was like, oh man, this Book of Boba, like I thought we were going to get Grogu. I thought we were going to get Baby Yoda. I thought we were going to get Baby Yoda. And then as soon as Grogu pops in this week, her Twitter was all like bold writing, like, oh my gosh, Baby Yoda's back, blah, blah. I'm like, well, you don't care about spoiling it for other people. But she was posting that at like 6:00 in the morning on Wednesday. So, it's just great seeing people's excitement over Star Wars, like people that aren't just hardcore fans, people that love the property. Like it's great seeing people's reactions like that. And I just makes me smile seeing people. It's like, good. That's how we should be reacting as fans. Like it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. It's always fun to talk about it online. So, you can find me at Real Ben Maynard on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm always there to chat Star Wars with everybody.
There you go. What about you, Milton?
It's gonna be a very simple weekend, honestly. This past week has been crazy for my family, so it's gonna be a good time just to relax and just kind of just settle down things. For those who don't know, my aunt passed away last week, so we had her funeral this past Tuesday. So, like I said, we're still just decompressing from that. But no, this weekend is going to be just a relaxing weekend, hanging out, chilling. Hopefully, just get back to some normalcy and enjoying just life in general. So if you can find me at Milton Weber 7, that's Milton Weber and the number 7.
There you go. Yeah, much condolences to you and your family, man.
Appreciate it.
Yep. And as far as me, I put out a couple videos you guys want to check out. If you want to know more about Cad Bane, I posted a video about basically his mainstay adventures throughout the Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Darth Maul comics he was in. So I give you a quick rundown of his history if you want to know more about that infamous cowboy wearing red-eyed blue bounty hunter. And I also have a video that is a little bit of like, hey, what's going on? Is that actually the Jedi Academy from Last Jedi in the book of Boba Fett? So I break that down, talking about the comics and tracing different things there. So yeah, you can check that out. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel so you never miss out any of the videos. Hit that bell icon so you'll be notified when videos go live. As I said, you can listen to us on your commute, at the gym, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you go ahead and rate us on Spotify, which you can now do. I do want to send a shout out to everybody that joined us in the chat. We had Tim Sheets, we had Shrug Knuckles Fist Bump, we had Dark Nerdy Gonzo, we had Aaron Daly. I think that was basically. Oh yeah, we had Star Wars Theology. So thank you everybody for joining us. Remember, you can join us every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. Next week is the big day. Join us and with all your excitement to talk about the ending of the Book of Boba Fett and the future of what I like to call the Mando verse. So for Milton, for Ben, for Starrapter, not Star Wars, this was Outer Rim Transmission number 44 and transmission. There we go.